What
Oh
is
yeah.
up, everyone? Thank you all for coming to see us this Saturday morning. If you're on the West Coast or in the afternoon or early afternoon in the Midwest or the East Coast. I'm joined today by my buddy Spencer. Spencer, how you doing today?
I'm good, man. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, of course, no problem at all. It's going to be a really fun live stream today. We got a lot of great questions on our community post, as well as some comments coming in already from the chat. We got Cesar Joel starting us off with "Let's go, can't wait." He commented this actually an hour and 15 minutes ago, so he's super early.
Oh yeah.
My boy,
CJ's gonna
my
be
boy
mad about that.
Cesar. I know. Anthony Ventures here, Noise as well, and we have Bravo Mo 1982. Thanks for coming up. Hi, good channel, like your work. Appreciate that, sir. Thank you so much. And we also have some others coming in too. We have Dong Kim. Again, great name. I agree with Uncle Luke on that. Dong Kim is one of the best names in the YouTube space here. Mojo, good morning, all. Of course. Chad Pennycuff is here in the house. Chad, welcome. Thank you so much, brother, for becoming a member. As you all know, channel members are open. So if you'd like to become a member, definitely join if you'd like to do so. I do want to go back because Bravo Mo did actually ask an early question, so he gets to go in a little bit early here. So I'll kind of pose this to you first, Spencer. I'm curious, what is a good card to paid with Wells Fargo Active Cash Card? I'm liking Amex Gold, but wondering if I should just use that or other options. I don't have a travel card.
Well, you're the one that made a big video about this recently, because I'm assuming he means pair instead of paid.
Yes.
So, theoretically, the most logical choice would be either the Wells Fargo autograph or the Journey once that, I guess, officially launches. Because yeah, I mean, you could use something like the Amex Gold, right, if you wanted to really do that for travel, but that introduces a lot of other factors to it that, for a lot of people, I would say that you kind of want to stick to those lower annual fee cards first, unless you know for a fact that like you can use all the credits on an Amex card like the Amex Gold, and you're like 100% sure you want to use those points for travel, particularly with Amex. When it comes to Wells Fargo, it looks like we're going to have the opportunity to do, a mix of like the cashback and travel approach within the same ecosystem, which could be really good to pair an active cash with that autograph journey. But I'm curious to know what you think about that, Stan. That'd be probably what I'd go with.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think he said the active cash is kind of what he had. That's like a simple thing. If you want to make it simple for yourself and just do active cash for everything, that's totally fine. Make it super simple. The gold card for travel, I mean, you could do that. It's not like the best. I think if you want to do something with that, green card's better. But I do like your idea of the autograph card. That's been a great card for travel with a good value proposition. Now with the transfer partners coming in, even a better value proposition. Then you have also the autograph journey card. We'll go into that more a little bit later on in the live stream. But that would be some good options to consider for the travel card.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So we'll keep going on here. We have Mojo with another question here. What would be the 2 cashback cards you'd run with for a year if you could only use 2 cashback cards and we're not going to travel? It's a good question. What do you think?
That's tough. I mean, I think as most people know, if they've seen my channel, like I'm pretty much fully team travel. Like I have, I guess, technically some cashback cards, but I've never redeemed for cashback. So I don't spend as much time in the cashback space. It's difficult though, because if you could only use 2, I don't know, my gut reaction would be like, okay, you could, if you had no other credit cards, for example, and I guess this offer just ended, but like one of those Chase Freedom cards with those 5% back on gas and groceries, as well as like the 3% on dining, like the Freedom Unlimited 1.5 on everything else, or those rotating categories on the Flex where you could get like 9% back on certain categories for, a quarter of the year at least. Like that's pretty powerful. And then pairing that with a card like a Saber One or even like an autograph or something like that. If I think once I do like kind of switch to more team cashback, I guess we'll probably talk about this later, Stan, but you've kind of lit a fire under the US Bank Altitude Reserve, which isn't technically a cashback credit card, I guess. It is, but it's not in a way. But that I think would definitely be one of my in-game setups. But if it was only for a year, I'd probably just stick with some like no annual fee ones while I transitioned between the travel and cashback game.
Yeah, I think there's always 2 aspects to cashback credit cards. The first is if it's no annual fee or not. And then the second is going to be, is it 5% cashback or not? Or as close as possible you can get to 5% cashback. And so I think if I had this question initially, I would have said City Custom Cash and City Double Cash. It's pretty simple. I mean, you get 5% on the category you want for up to $500 in a billing cycle, and then you get 2% back, whatever. But recently, I've been looking at more of these credit union or kind of lesser known cards, and so I think if I were to choose the two for this scenario, I would probably choose the AAA Daily Advantage card, which is that 5% cash back on groceries up to $10,000 per year. It's pretty good.
Mhm.
It's going to be a pretty nice category for that, as well as the Alliant Visa Signature Card, give you that 2.5% cash back up to $10,000 per month. Of course, you have to be a member of their credit union to get that sort of bonus, but that would be what I would go for, just based off of kind of the question itself.
Yeah, those are good options. I think, yeah, that Alliant, don't you have to, being a member, you also have to hold like 10,000 in an account or something like that? There's
It's
something
not that
interesting about it.
it's not that much. It's actually about 10. I think it's 1,000.
Oh, really?
It's very doable. It's nothing
Yeah.
crazy. I think there's also a direct deposit requirement as well,
Mhm.
but it's only you can use ACH transfer, and it's like not that's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
So it's not like unreasonable to get that done. Unlike things like the Morgan Stanley cards, for
Right.
example, that's like those are ridiculous. But like I think the ones that the Alliant Credit Union is pretty reasonable.
Nice.
Great. So let's keep going here. We have Juan Garcia in the house. Hello, Stan from the MIA. I'm thinking he's saying Miami. So
I would
welcome. Thank you
imagine.
so much. My boy Monty Lou here is here. Hey, Stan Spencer. Guys, check out Monty Lou's channel. He's actually a new and upcoming YouTuber with a lot of great ideas. So definitely check him out. He's got a nice question to ask us at the end too. So definitely stick around for that. Chad Pennycuff saying, loving the frog logo in the bottom right. Yeah, I mean, funny story about that. A lot of us at the beginning when we first started our channels use that logo to be like the red subscribe logo, and that's been there for a long time. But I decided that at this point, let's put the frog there. Why not? I think it's your face, right, Spencer?
Yeah, mine is just literally like, I think my channel logo. Yeah.
Nice.
Kept it simple.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, we have Mr. Cesar Joel here, two of the best in the game. I appreciate that, sir. You are also the best too. I'm looking
Oh, yeah.
forward to the day where YouTube does the thing with the AI where they can transcribe Spanish into English, and then we
Yeah.
can all be able to watch your videos in English, but you record them in Spanish. I think YouTube's coming out with that sort of AI technology where they actually will move your lips to so that you are lip synced to the English dub or whatever the language of dub would be. And that's going to be pretty powerful and kind of terrifying at the same time.
Yeah.
That's going to be pretty cool. John McKinstry is here. Good morning, afternoon, everyone. Thank you, sir. Good to see you. And my boy Luke from Luke's Points and Miles. What up, boys? And we are boys compared to Uncle Luke because he is our
Oh, yeah.
uncle.
Exactly right.
I had a great live with Uncle Luke last time, and it was really, really fun. And I'm hoping to have a really awesome one with Spencer today with you as well.
See if I can live up to the expectations of Uncle Luke here.
Of course, we have CWS 07. Good afternoon to you. CJ is here. Hello, coming in a little bit late, but I don't know if it's late or not because it does say 9:58 on this screen here. So he did comment. We're just kind of a little bit behind in the comments here. Good to see you, man. He's saying he's first as always, of course. Mr. Brad's here. Hello, hello. We got a lot of people here. Oh, Jake Vanderplug. Good to see you, buddy. Nice to see you. Good friend of the channel. Always leaving some very good comments on the live streams and whatnot. Dalton here. We got your question in the community chat. We're going to go over that in a moment. Vincent's also here. Happy Saturday. Stan Spencer. Happy Saturday, you too. All right.
Ooh.
We have a little bit of a follow out here from Mr. Bravo Mo. Let's see what he says. Does having Venture X second card better than Gold Amex besides my Wells Fargo Active Cash? I guess would you rather have the Venture X as a secondary card as opposed to the Amex Gold card?
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't like Wells Fargo Autograph due to poor partners. So he's looking at the partners of either the MR point system or the Capital One system and judging is that better to have those cards as opposed to having the autograph card?
Yeah, that's kind of, I mean, that's one of the biggest things that I recommend that people look into, obviously, is like when you're picking a lender, especially if you're on team travel or you want to be on team travel, you got to pick a lender with partners that you like. Capital One, it's funny if you like Capital One's partners a lot more, most people I feel like don't have that same experience with Capital One because they don't have that many access to straight up domestic partners without going through like airline alliances and stuff. But yeah, like it wouldn't make that much sense to get a travel credit card, earning points that you won't actually like benefit from. So I think that's a very important first step. But also maybe it's like, okay, if you want to look between Amex and Capital One, like Amex is going to have those high annual fees. So maybe look at those partners that they might have like the same, mutual partners with, and just see what other lenders might have access for you. But, some people get stuck on Amex and they really want them. So I get that too. Just make sure you can get positive value from the cards.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. I mean, you're always looking at the active cash card, but the VentureX has that 2x category too. So you're kind of upping
That's
on
true.
the categories. So you have to think about what transporters do you want, and then try to go for the cards that give you the best multipliers in that travel category, or in that travel partners that area. So I think that's what would be the main focus of that question. I don't know if one's better than the other necessarily, depending on it kind of depends on what you're looking for as a travel partner.
Agreed.
Yeah. Okay, so Redstone FCU Visa Signature, tough to beat. It's a really good card. Definitely one that I have covered recently in my last video with, I think it has 5%, I want to say restaurants and gas, and some other very powerful multipliers for no annual fee and no foreign transaction fees. So definitely a great card to get. Although I think there's some sort of, it's harder to get that card because there's some kind of FaceTime interview. I think Luke talked about that in one of his videos. And so it's not as straightforward to get, like the other credit cards would be. We have, let's see here. AP saying Spencer and Stan and Luke GOAT. All right, all three of us are included in that. That's awesome. I would not mind that at all, which is great. Yeah. And then QC Man asked Spencer, think Texas men will sneak into the NCAA, or are you expecting NIT?
I mean, no, they lost first round of the Big 12 tournament, right? So I don't know, dude. That team is so up and down. I went to the OU game, I guess, like 2 weeks ago, the Texas OU game, which is like our big rival for those that don't, I guess, watch college sports. But yeah, that was really fun because we played really well. And then the next week we lose disappointingly. So I don't have high hopes. I'm expecting NIT. Maybe we'll be the champs of that again. We'll see.
Disappointing. I know it's. I don't actually watch NCAA, but what I do watch is RJ and Matt's March Madness for credit cards. That stuff is fun. I've been doing that since like 3 or 4 years since he first started. It's a fun thing. If you guys haven't checked out their channels and their videos on that, definitely check it out. Speaking of Matt Welter, we got Matt Welter in the house. What up, fellas? Good to see you, man. Me, Spencer, and Matt kind of all started on the same time in YouTube, and we've been pretty good friends since then. So it's great to see you here.
Yes, sir.
Let's see. He also says that Texas was projected at 9 seed in Lunardi's bracketology, so should sneak in. So,
well, yeah, Matt knows a lot about the sports more than me. So if you ever have sports questions, you gotta hit up Matt for that. But that was fun too. I'll mention this real quick. Because Matt and Texas and Washington played each other in football this year in the college football playoffs. So, and Matt's a Washington boy, so we were having a lot of fun back and forth with that. So
nice. Yeah, I wish I could partake in the college sport thing, but I didn't go to a school that was into the college or into a sport that was in like the Division I seed or anything like that. And so David William asked, we know Spencer is a Texas Longhorn, but what college did Stan go to? Well, I went to Tufts University in Boston. I believe at the time it was a Division III school. And so it's not necessarily, the sports there are not as big as the other schools that are in D1. But that's the school I went to for college. Okay, wonderful. So I think we're gonna get started with our presentation here. So we do have a lot of great questions to answer for you guys, and so we're super pumped about that. And the first thing I definitely want to say is thank you so much for everyone who left a comment, whether it be saying hello or just saying it's looking forward to the show. We're really happy to be here, and we're here to answer your questions as best as we can, and have some fun doing it at the same time. We have Spencer here in the middle saying going to be a blast. We have Woodsy, who unfortunately can't make it because Saturdays are more family time, and so hopefully you can catch it on the replay. We've got DJ October saying can't wait for this one. Who's Ivan? Scott's here. This is awesome. Hopefully he has a question. I don't think he got one in at the chat or the community post at that time, but we'll see. Hopefully he'll be able to get one in sometime soon. Nature's here. Two of my favorites in the credit card space. Sean Credit, big guy, big commenter on all of our channels. So thanks so much for that. Spencer, tons of valuable information coming in our way. Yep, on deck. As well as Ron West over here saying two of my favorite creators. Let's go. And so it's really important to look at all these questions, but we want to have some fun too. And so just like the last time we had this live stream, we also had Eagles All Day asked, can we do a rock, paper, scissors challenge? And so when I did this with Luke last month, he asked who would be the best to do this, who would be the winner in a rock, paper, scissors challenge. And so at that time, we did it. And fortunately or unfortunately, I won. And so now my record is 1-0. So his question is, can we have the credit card community's reigning rock, paper, scissors championship or champion defend his title against Spencer? So Spencer, what do you think about that?
Well, I'm pretty competitive, and I'm really good at rock, paper, scissors. It's not luck based at all. So I think I'll take home the victory.
Sounds like challenge has been accepted. So what I want you guys to do is in the chat, leave your prediction of who you think is going to win, me or Spencer. We're going to answer a question first here while you kind of leave those down in the chat. And then we'll come back and going to do the rock, paper, scissors and go over that as well. So the first question comes from my man, Cesar Joel. Cesar says, 2 of my favorite creators in on live. Are you guys going to the 2024 New Orleans creator meetup? It would be great to see you both again. And so I'll first pose that question to you, Spencer. First of all, what is he talking about? And second of all, are you going to this meetup?
Yeah. So me and Stan and a lot of our other, I guess, buddies that make videos, including Caesar, we went to Las Vegas last year, which I do have some pictures of here that I added. Yeah. So you can see like JP in there, Eric, Manny. I mean, there's so many people that actually showed up, and it was something that I guess Luke kind of put on, or at least he instigated the whole thing, where we all went to Vegas and we didn't actually have like a conference hall or anything like that, but we just said, hey, we're going to be here on these dates. If y'all want to show up, we can all hang out and chat for a bit. That's what we did. And then this year, Chad wants to kind of head this one up a little bit more than Luke and wants to do it in New Orleans. At least that's my understanding of it so far. And yes, I am planning on going. I haven't booked my place yet, but I put some pictures up here because I did stay in New Orleans recently. So I was going to talk a little bit about my experience with that, because I don't know if I would stay at this place again, the Hyatt Centric in the French Quarter. So the story behind that is I did a road trip, which I'll talk about later too, from Austin all the way to Charleston, South Carolina, which is like 20 hours. But I stopped in a bunch of cities on the way, including New Orleans. So I got to New Orleans on a Saturday night at about midnight. And this Hyatt Centric is on Bourbon Street, which I did not know at the time. And I got there again Saturday at midnight. So Bourbon Street is very lively. All the doors were locked, had to drive across Bourbon Street in my car, which does not really work very well. And then couldn't go to sleep until about 3 by the time I finally got in. It was just a whole mess. But again, I was probably just poor planning on my part. But the room itself was actually really nice. But yeah, if you like to stay up and party, I mean, there you go. You could stay there. But I don't know where exactly I'll book this year. I do expect to be there, though.
Nice, Spencer. Yeah. I actually also plan on being there at the New Orleans Creator Meetup. It's a fun time. Like you said, we went to Las Vegas last time, and it was a really good showing, and we got to meet all the creators, and as well as some of you in the community as well. And it was really awesome to meet you guys and talk to you. And so for me, I'm a big fan of New Orleans. Actually, my last trip was in 2021, and interestingly enough, that was before I started YouTube. And so I was actually looking at other hobbies. And so one of my hobbies at that time was gambling. Side note, that's not a great hobby to have. But that's kind of what I was looking at. I was like learning how to do all the table games, that sort of thing. And so my trips are basically the trips basically come from where I'm going for conferences. So at that time, there was a medical conference that I went to in New Orleans, but because there was a Harrah's property, it was a Caesar's property, and I had Caesar's Diamond at the time, I stayed there because there was no resort fees. They have some perks for you to stay there, that sort of thing. But a lot of the memories I have from New Orleans was the food that was there. And, I'm a big fan of seafood, especially oysters. And they have a lot of great oyster options there. They have obviously the char-grilled oysters, which are delicious. I prefer raw oysters, but, having a variety is also really cool too. The second picture here is actually a po' boy. So it's like a fried sandwich with, I think the right side's shrimp here, but the left side is fried oysters, and that's also delicious too. And you can't forget, the classic Café du Monde with the beignets. And so getting that in the morning, every morning, it was just a big treat. And so it's going to be really fun to see all you guys there at the Creator Meetup. And so that's going to be in New Orleans this year on Labor Day weekend.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say too, I'm allergic to gluten and dairy, which I've talked about before. So New Orleans, all the food there is not very friendly. Like I can't even eat it Cafe Du
Oh
Monde.
no.
So it's pretty terrible, but
Oh, I'm
I'm still
sorry to
going to
hear
have
that,
fun.
Spencer. It's okay. I'll just, well, it's more for me, I guess.
Exactly right.
Okay. Okay, so back to rock, paper, scissors. It looks like, Spencer, you've got a big following here. So Matt
Ooh.
says, I'm sorry, Stan, but I think Spencer takes the W here. Cortland says Spencer. CJ says Spencer. I get the feeling that he's competitive. I get that feeling too, but sometimes it's all talk and no walk, right?
We'll
So
see.
there's that. Justin Shu says team engineering. Spencer's got the rock, paper, scissors W. Fun story. We're actually both engineers. When I got my bachelor's in electrical engineering, and I believe you are a civil.
Yep. Civil.
Right, yeah. And so we were both engineers, just different engineers. Of course, I don't do engineering as much anymore. I don't know how much you do in your life anymore, Spencer.
Not much.
Not
Besides
much. Okay.
calculating what I need to do in this rock, paper, scissors match.
There you go. Excellent. I got one here. I got Ronald says Stan will keep the win streak going. So I got one for me, which is good. So here's how it's going to happen. We're going to do basically, we're going to show our hands here and we'll just do rock, paper, scissors, and shoot is when you're going to show what you did. Okay. Okay. Spencer, you ready?
Yep. Is it just one? Or are we doing 2 out of 3
best
here?
Best of 3.
Okay.
Best of 3. Here we go. Okay. All right, here we go. So rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Uh-oh. That's not a good start.
Okay. So I
we
got
love good
scissors,
comeback.
Paper. So it's 1-0 me. So we'll see how it goes. Just gotta, shake it off. Okay, here we go. So number 2. Ready? Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Papers.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Come on.
We think the same thing. What's going on? Okay. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Uh-oh.
I like this. See, we have a very good wavelength here. Okay. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
God, dude, I lost on paper twice.
Oh, that would be a 2-0 for me. So I keep my championship alive. Spencer, I know you put up a good fight. It was a lot of draws. What, 3 or 4 draws in the middle?
God, yep.
Yeah, but sometimes it's just not your day. Today wasn't your day with the rock, paper, scissors. Don't worry. I'm sure there'll be a matchup again at some point. I do have this banner here that says Stan wins.
Oh, come on now.
Hooray!
Well, you know what, Stan? We might have to get Eagles all day in my chat too, and we can, whenever I have you as a guest on my live, we can have a rematch. I'll give you the home court advantage here.
I'll take that. No, I'm always happy to challenge you, and I think that's a really fun thing to do. Also, while I'm here in this banner section, don't forget that like button if you're getting value from this. We're going to get into some really good questions in the coming future here. So just definitely hit the like button if you can. It also helps the video out. So thank you guys so much for that. Okay, so I think we're in for a break. Good. So I'm going to go back to our faces here. And so let's kind of catch up on some things. There were some questions that were asked a little bit beforehand, before we get back here. Bring out the broomstick, sweep for Stan, getting huge KO from the doctor. Joe Barreto, Stan the man, oh darn Spencer. And I think Ronald was the only one was able to get this right. So yes, I would have wagered it, but I don't want to be that kind of channel with the GAMBLING. So, that sort of thing. I want to make sure that it's all good fun, but if it was up to me, I definitely would have done some wagers. But, maybe in the New Orleans creator meetup, we go to Harrah's and maybe work that out.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I want to apologize to all my fans here that were rooting for me for that match, but we'll be back better than ever. Don't worry.
There you go. I like it. Okay, so let's go back to some questions here. So this I don't know how to say it now. I'm so sorry, but it's just he asked the question. Hi Stan, I know you have the MS Platinum. Do you know the existence of the MS BCP? What is your opinion of it? The exclusive benefit is $100 statement credit after spending $15,000 on the card. So yeah, I do know about it. It's the Morgan Stanley Blue Cash Preferred card. It's exactly the same as the regular Blue Cash Preferred card, except you have that extra sign-up offer. Although I think that may have changed now depending on if you've had that card, quote, already or not. It used to be a separate product. I mean, I think it's okay. It's not something that I would really stress out about. I think the Blue Cash Preferred original is fine. But if that's something you want to look into, that is certainly another option to get that card. Also, it's a personal card too, so it also goes towards Chase 524. And as we all know, we're all trying to lower our Chase 524 status, and that won't help if you get another BCP card.
It also will add to that the 5 credit card limit for Amex too, if you care about that. So
Very good point, Spencer. Yeah, I mean, not everyone has that limit, but I do, and a lot of people do, and so I think it's worth saying that you want to be not stingy. You want to make sure that you know what card you want to get for those 5, and then if you get extras on top of that, that's just a bonus.
right.
Okay, I don't know the answer to this, Spencer. Maybe you do. Ronald asks, "Can my wife's hotel cards connect to my Bonvoy or Hilton account?"
I don't. I've never
I th-
tried that.
I
Obviously, I
think
don't
for
have a wife, but
Well, I think for Bonvoy, I don't think you can. I think Hilton, there's a way to do it, but maybe I'm confusing that with Chase. So if anyone in the chat knows the answer to this question, definitely drop it down so we can get an answer to Ronald's question. I'm not sure if you can really share the points or not.
yeah, I know that. I mean, at least with like Hilton, or I looked this up the other day because I was trying to make a redemption for my. I wanted to book a Hyatt stay for my parents. So I was going through that whole like, how do you do that kind of thing? And I read that there's definitely ways to at least transfer points to other people. So like whether or not you're earning the points or her, theoretically might be able to move them to each other. So maybe you don't need to have it all go to your account, but I guess when it comes to like status and stays, you would want it all in one. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Trying to we can pot shot different individual redemptions and just kind of chain them
Yeah.
together. That
Yeah.
usually works out. You can go to the front desk the day of the hotel and just explain it to them, and they'll put it all in the same portfolio. And so that
Right.
typically
Yeah.
works out okay. Corlin asks, with some benefits going away on certain cards and Amex revamping a lot of their products, if you look into the crystal ball, what's the next big nerf? Keep it up, guys. What do you think about this, Spencer? What do you think is Amex's next big move?
I mean, I've said this a lot. I might be beating a dead horse here, but I just think that family language that they keep adding to all their cards is just going to keep getting added. Like I think the Hilton cards, for example, are probably next. That'd be my guess. I guess Hilton has a say in that, but when it happens to Amex's, all their charge cards as well as the Delta cards, it just makes sense to me that like the Hilton ones would follow. And what I'm talking about is like basically what you used to be able to do is like you could get any of the charge cards, the green, gold, and platinum in whatever order, and you could get the bonuses on all of them. They now made it to where if you get like a platinum, for example, you can't get the welcome offer on the gold or green cards. So anything below the or below the tier that you got a card from, you can't get. And they added that same thing to the Delta cards. I would imagine they do the same thing with the Hilton cards, which is why I'm not going to like jump to the Hilton Aspire, but would theoretically work my way up the ladder to get the most amount of Hilton points possible. That's probably the next one, I imagine. And then, of course, probably more monthly credits on all of their cards. That's always a nice nerf, depending on the credits.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I agree. I think there's going to be a monthly credit nerf, if not a semi-monthly credit nerf.
Yeah, more fun.
I'm really big on that. I don't know if they're going to do that for real, but I think it'd be so funny if they did, because we're all expecting it. They can only go down lower, right? They can't go higher. So the next step is going to be semi-monthly. And so I'm looking for that. We'll see. Of course, annual fees are probably the next big nerf. That's probably the most obvious because of just the way things are going these days. But I mean, at the very least, the welcome offers are getting bigger and the spend requirements are also getting bigger, but the time frame to spend them is also getting bigger too. So instead of 3 months now, it's mostly 6 months as well. So there's that too. So it's a plus and minus. So we'll definitely have to see, but we're all checking it out.
Yep.
Okay, so next question comes from my boy Keith, who loves the Bilt card, by the way, because he made his profile picture here. Spencer, what is your favorite $95 card? I'm going to do 2 questions here. Out of these 4 options, CSP Saver, City Premier, or Autograph Journey, and then just in general, $95 to $99 annual fee card, what is your favorite card?
Gosh, that's difficult. I mean, I'm kind of torn on this one because everybody probably expects me to say that the Chase Sapphire Preferred, which is probably my most recommended $95 card, because a lot of people that I talk to, especially like just people around my age, are starting with Chase. So just the natural progression is to get the Chase Sapphire Preferred to gain access to Chase's transfer partners. Like you don't need to do anything else with that card. The fact alone that it gives you access to their transfer partners is huge and gives you way more than $95 a year in value, even with usually like 1 redemption. So that would be like, I guess that's probably my favorite card, but to be fair, I don't even have it anymore. Like I have the reserve. So out of all of these cards, I don't have any of them in my setup. I do hope to add the City Premier. I don't think I would ever add the Saver card personally. I know that it can make sense with enough spend and all that, but I would just probably stick with the Saver one. But yeah, so I guess my answer is the Chase Sapphire Preferred, and then I'll let you answer that before while I think about out of all the cards.
Sure. Okay. So for me, actually, I agree with you. I think Chase Sapphire Preferred actually would be my favorite one, and let me explain why. So the Saver card is the $95 with the 4% on groceries and restaurants compared to the Saver One, which is no annual fee. I think yes, you could pound out spend on the Saver One to get the better 4%, but you have to really try. Whereas Saver One, you just get the value, no annual fee is totally fine. I think that's a lot better from a psychological standpoint. And so that's why I would always prefer the no annual fee version of that card opposed to the $95 version. That goes the same thing for the autograph journey and the autograph card. Same thing. You're getting a little bit more percentage wise multipliers from the autograph journey, but you will have to kind of make it work to get that effective annual fee of $45 to be covered, as opposed to autograph regular no annual fee. You kind of have lower multipliers, but it's always going to be valuable. So there's no like stress about trying to get that value back. Now there are certain exceptions for the autograph journey, which we'll talk about later on, but in the generally speaking, that's kind of how I view those two cards. The City Premier card was a great card, in my opinion, until you had the autograph card come out. And that's kind of a hot take because I know people love the Premier card for their transfer partners, for their ability to get groceries. I think it's groceries and restaurants on the same card, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That is really powerful, but it's $95 annual fee. What autograph can do basically the same thing. And so and now they have transfer partners too on it or coming up to it. So I can't take that card seriously while the autograph no annual fee card exists with transfer partners. And so that's kind of what my reasoning is for the Chase Sapphire Preferred, because that card, like you said, you have to get that card to unlock the transfer partners for Chase. And you don't necessarily use a Chase Sapphire Preferred for spending. You just use it as the unlocking benefit. And then you use things like the Chase Freedom Flex for 5%. You use the Chase Freedom Unlimited for that 1.5%, or the Chase Ink cards for whatever you want to do for that reason. So you can kind of use all of those together to make the Chase Sapphire Preferred very valuable. But that would be my answer for that part of the question.
Yeah. No, yeah, I think that's exactly how I would go with it too. I was thinking about like out of all the $95 annual fee cards, I think that a lot of times the best bang for your buck when it comes to those, like that category, would probably be the hotel side of the game. I don't know if you would agree with that, Stan. I would imagine that's where most people's heads would go.
Yep.
So like, well, I guess you can't say the Surpass anymore because that has a $150 annual fee. Maybe the Hilton Business, because I guess that still is lower, but you literally with that card, I think only now get Hilton Gold status, which is still valuable. You know, the Boundless card is a very interesting value proposition, which is one that I do have, $95 annual fee, the Marriott Boundless, which is the first step, I guess, in the ladder towards the Ritz-Carlton card, which is something I learned from Stan. So I imagine you all have seen that video at this point. That video is really good and really popular. But that's kind of like an undervalued card just in that sense, on top of the fact that you could get positive value every year if you wanted it, just by the one free night certificate for 35,000 points. But I like the value prop of it being able to get you to the Ritz card, which is very, very valuable. So that might be my answer, at least out of my setup right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you, Central. I think if I were to do the $95 card, it used to be the Surpass card.
Yeah.
I think it's a toss-up between the Hilton Business and the Bonvoy Boundless for me. I think the Boundless is probably my favorite just because I'm a Marriott guy, but I can see the value in that Hilton Business where you get that $15,000 to spend in a calendar year, because that's like an integrated sign-up bonus every single year.
Right.
And so I think for those of you who can get that spend out in a calendar year, that may be the better choice. So I'm going to go like half-half, like yes, business, Hilton Business or the Marriott Bonvoy Boundless.
Yep.
Yeah. We do have another question here that I wanted to check before I lost it, and it is basically to you, Spencer.
Oh, okay.
And basically, this is from Sendo, and Sendo asks, "Are you really 6'7"?"
Oh my gosh, who keeps putting this out there? No, I'm actually 7'6". It was backwards. Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
See,
Caesar says 7'6". He got it.
I said that at the exact same time. I didn't even read that. But yeah, no, I'm 7'6". So whenever you see me, just expect that.
I think Luke saw you and said you were 6'8", but you're really 7'6".
Yeah, there's a lot of controversy behind this, but yeah, that the fact of the matter is I'm definitely over 6'6". So take that for what it's worth.
Spencer's a tall guy, but I met him for the first time, and I was like, "Oh, hi, Spencer. How's it going?"
Exactly.
That's literally what I did, actually. That's like a true story. Because I'm actually unfortunately not that tall. I'm like an average size guy, but that's how it is. Okay,
Yeah.
so I think we're good here. I think we have a few things here. Oh, we have QC Man saying, "Isn't great at rock paper scissors competitor. I'm sure you'll have a better time next time." But he is 6'7", so everyone knows you're 6'7". But I guess it's actually 7'6". So it's gonna be when they all meet you at the creator meetup in New Orleans, they can all confirm how tall you are.
Exactly. And don't check if I'm standing on a chair or not.
I know we can't really tell because like when you're in this, in this live, you only see the torso up, so you don't really see
Mhm.
the bottom portion either. But that's super fun. Okay. Any other questions here before we go into it more? I think we're gonna hold it off at there and kind of go on to our next set of questions. So this is gonna be a kind of a high yield, high information session of credit card questions. I love these questions because they all have to do with credit card setup. So these next set of questions are all about credit card setup. So the first question we have is coming from Dalton, and Dalton asked, Stan and Spencer, do you believe the CSR is worth it for most people, or do you believe the CSP is a better value in my future setup? I plan to travel a lot more and plan on getting the CSP to use alongside an Amex CS or Charles Schwab Platinum card. Would you suggest something different, or would the setup work well together? So I think there's two questions here. The first is going to be, is the CSR worth it for most people, or the CSP a better value? And Spencer, you've done a lot of videos on this exact topic, and you have had both of these cards. I've had neither of these cards. So I want to hear from you specifically on that. The second question is going to be, do you think the Amex CS Platinum card is a good pairing with the CSP, or would you choose something else?
Okay. I can help with that. So yeah, like Stan said, I've made full videos about this too. I went through the same exact thought process. So I made this little screen here just to kind of really outline the difference between the two cards. And there's a lot more than just this, but honestly, the fact of the matter between these two cards is if you want Chase Airport Lounge access specifically, well, okay, hold on. First of all, we'll just say between the Sapphire Reserve and Sapphire Preferred, you have lounge access in general with the Priority Pass and Sapphire Lounges on the Sapphire Reserve versus no lounge access with the Preferred. If your only goal is to get your points out to travel partners and you never plan on using the portal, you don't want to get any airport lounge access, you don't need any of that, like you might have it on another card, like you asked for the second part of the question, then the Sapphire Preferred is likely the better option. It gives you, like I said, access to the transfer partners at $95 a year. You can get way more value than that with even one redemption when it comes out to like how many points you save by transferring rather than using the portal. So to me, for most people, the Sapphire Preferred definitely makes more sense. I mean, obviously, I can't speak for your specific situation, everybody in the chat, but as for your second part of the question, you have the Amex Platinum, the Charles Schwab version. So you already have lounge access. So the real question, the only thing that the Sapphire Reserve is really going to give you is access to the Chase specific lounges. That's like all you don't really have with the Platinum card. And I guess the raised value in the portal. But really, other than that, you're already covered with the Amex Platinum card. So it's like, do you value, well, first of all, Sapphire Reserve has a $550 annual fee and it has a $300 annual travel credit. So that knocks your effective down to $250, right? So do you value Chase Lounge access at $250 or more a year is basically what you're looking at in your specific case, already having a Platinum card. And that's really a question that only you can answer. For me, like I've used it quite a bit and I've probably gotten that much value from it, especially when I bring my buddies with me and I can bring two people in and we can all eat and drink together and stuff, which is, it gives you a lot of money back. If you would have paid for that beforehand is another question. Does that lower the effective annual fee? Technically not, maybe, but I do think that it's very valuable. If you're only looking at the Chase ecosystem, the reason I upgraded to the Reserve was mainly for those added travel benefits. And I didn't have any other card that gave me any travel benefits besides the Venture X. And the Venture X only gives me, I guess, the Priority Pass and the Capital One lounges. I have a Chase lounge in my Austin airport. So I was like, oh, I want the Reserve for that to at least try it. And so far, I'm getting positive value from it. But that is very specific to me because I have access to one of those lounges. It's probably a very, I don't know. I was going back and forth with my answer there, but hopefully that makes sense. Stan, you can maybe clean it up for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think I like what you said about it kind of depends because for all of these types of questions, it really does depend. But you did break it down to a section where it's the Chase Sapphire Preferred is better if you're just looking for access to transfer partners, as opposed to Chase Sapphire Reserve gets you a lot of the good value if you want to have lounge access. And it has very powerful lounge access. Or if you want to have the 1.5 cent per point in the travel portal, that's all important. And of course, you have to not forget about the Sapphire lounges that only the Sapphire Reserve card can get you, but also the Ritz-Carlton card. So that's something to think about too. So if you don't have access to the Ritz-Carlton card, your only way in is going to be the Sapphire Reserve card. And so that's something to think about when you make the decision between lounge access versus no lounge access. As for what I think, I guess I'll kind of tackle the second question, and you can add in something if you'd like to, Spencer. Is this Amex Platinum and the Chase Sapphire Preferred a good pairing? And it does go back to the transfer partner issue, but I think when you think of a card like the Amex Platinum, you obviously want to see all the things you get for with the lounge access, with the transfer partners, but it's also 5x on flights for your multiplier. That's really the only thing you get. So you're really missing out on a lot of the other travel multipliers on the card that should be on a travel card. For example, hotels, car rentals, cruises, or any kind of transit category. And so I think if you were to pair that with the Chase Sapphire Preferred, which does have an elevated multiplier for that, it's only 2x. And so is it bad? No. Is it great? No, either. So I think the next step would be, well, is there a way to get a better travel multiplier for that travel category that's not flights? And so these are some options here that you can think about. There's the Chase Sapphire Reserve, which does get you the 3x category. And of course, that gives you the options to cover the travel category in all the different areas, not just travel, but transit too. If you want to pound out spend on the green card, you could do that. And then you can get that 3x travel and transit category, which you now have broad coverage of all the travel multipliers that you could think of, while getting higher multipliers on the MR points, getting that bank to be higher. So that'd be better too. There's also the Venture X option, which, that one will give you different lounge access from the Platinum card. For example, the Capital One lounges, and also give you a nice 2x flat multiplier. Doesn't necessarily do the best thing with travel multipliers or categories. But if you want to use the Capital One travel portal, you'd have that option to get that higher multiplier too. I do also put the Bonvoy Boundless card here just as an example, not necessarily saying it's the best one, but if you have a hotel brand you like more than another, you can consider supplementing the Platinum card with a hotel credit card that has a higher multiplier. So you can use that when you stay at those hotel chains. So you stay at Hilton's a lot, consider the Aspire or the Surpass. Stay at Marriott's, consider the Boundless or the Brilliant. Those sorts of pairings can be really helpful. But I think the Platinum and the CSP is not the best pairing in my opinion. But what do you think about that, Spencer?
Yeah, I think I like how you kind of took it from the aspect of earning categories as well. Like I don't even honestly think about that with the luxury travel cards because all of them are pretty bad when it comes to earning categories. Like I think of them as really being benefits cards, like you've talked about as well, like having a benefits setup as well as like a core credit card setup or like an earning setup. So like for me, I didn't even consider that in my thought process really. But yeah, I don't think you need to have, for example, the Amex Platinum and the CSP. I think you get the CSP if you have other Chase cards that you need to get points, out to their partners. That's like the main reason to get it. I wouldn't like get it to spend on and then try to use those points. Like it's mainly there for the transferability from your other Chase credit cards that you probably got earlier on. So that's kind of how I think about it. But I do think that like a luxury travel credit card in combination with another benefits style credit card, like a hotel card, is usually the best approach for most people. But
if you were to do that, what would you do if you had an Amex Platinum card, which I don't think you do yet?
No.
But if you did, what would you pair it with in your situation?
Well, yeah, getting into like the hotel conversation, I personally don't think I'll ever be like a Hilton loyalist. So I wouldn't pair it with like the Hilton cards. And I say that because I don't think that Hilton's status is quite as highly like valued because everybody can get it basically. Like you can get the highest status with the Aspire. So it's kind of like watered down, everybody has it. So it's not worth that much. So I would probably, and right now my plan is to kind of go down that Marriott route, like we've talked about, Stam. So I would probably pair it with like the Boundless and then product change it up to the Ritz-Carlton, which honestly I didn't even know until you just said that the Ritz-Carlton gave you access to the Sapphire lounges. I don't know if it does in my airport because mine's like a Sapphire Terrace. I was trying to look it up, but
it does not.
Okay, see that. So that's the ticket. But I was thinking like maybe I could just downgrade the Sapphire Reserve after this, but that's the issue there. But yeah, I think going like with the Platinum and the hotel that you like for me is going to be Marriott right now is probably the best approach.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's definitely reasonable. I probably would do something around the same thing.
Yeah.
I think for me, if I were to pair it, it would be either with the Brilliant, or if I wanted to go flexible point currency, I would probably go with something like Chase Sapphire Reserve.
Yeah, makes sense.
Good. Okay, so I think that question is pretty well covered. So we'll go on to the next question here, which is from Catch631. And so Catch asks, what travel credit card would you each recommend for a person who travels mostly by car in the Midwest? Home airport doesn't have any lounges, but is looking to start taking a domestic flight trip, like a week-long trip, once a year moving forward. Would it be better to go with a Sapphire, a Venture, Platinum, etc., to use points or miles for the once-a-year flight, or to look at a hotel card to use for staying on more of the trips? Love both your channels. You both have really helped build my setup. Thanks. Okay, so it looks like it's again another two-pronged question here. What kind of travel card would be the best to recommend for him? The one travel card, and then what type of travel card would that be? What brand would you choose it from? And would you use it for the flight or the hotel or both?
Yep. Yeah, I think I'm starting on this one too. My whole answer really revolves around like the fact that like you need to set your expectations here. It sounds like you're not somebody that's ever going to get value from any kind of like airport lounge access, at least in your home airport. Maybe you could whenever you're flying somewhere else. But if you're traveling mostly by car, then you really don't need any special airport perks or any flight perks. So that's why I have like the Amex Platinum and Sapphire Reserve X'd out here, which is not to say that you couldn't get these. But to me, like those cards, you really lower the effective annual fee by the access that they give you to special, like airport lounge access and stuff like that. And for you, if you're mainly traveling by car and staying in hotels along the way, it would make more sense to me to get a hotel credit card that you could maybe you do like the Hilton brand. So you're like, okay, I'll get the Aspire. I always have really great, status with them. I always have free night certificates I can kind of use here and there instead of getting like a transferable currency credit card. But then again, yeah, I guess going through my questions here that I thought of earlier is like, for one, I would ask you like what kind of cards you already have, because, say you're somebody that already has, again, multiple Chase Freedom cards, and you want access to like specific hotels or just better access through their portal, you probably want a Sapphire card to help you with that. But if you're not any of those, you just have cashback cards, and it's like, okay, maybe I'll just get a hotel card and leave it for my travels. And then that brings up the question, like, what airline or hotel do you like? Because then you'd want to get a card specifically with those and just kind of maybe funnel your spend through that to help you with status, stay at the same kind of properties to help you with status, get a card that already gives you high status, and just kind of like, that's probably my approach if I was only like road tripping. And you're really left with like Marriott or Hilton probably, because those are like the largest footprints, around the US. In my experience, Stan, maybe, I don't know about Hilton, but I know Marriott's like the biggest. So to me, again, we keep talking about Marriott and I don't want to keep answering it the same way, but it's like, to me, I would probably start with the Boundless and see how I liked it and see if I wanted to move up, or maybe just jump straight to the Brilliant instead if you really liked them. So that's kind of my thought process on it.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good answer in terms of like what to look for. You definitely want to know what your expectations are, and then also figure out what hotel you like, if that's the way you want to go. I have a similar approach to that. It's really about goals, right?
Yeah.
And so you have a lot of trips by car. We'll get to that in a moment, but it's also that one trip a year you get. So you want to ask a few questions first. You want to say, where do you want to go? So what the location is, and you can figure out what hotels are there, or can you get there by airplane? And if so, what airline? How are you going to get there, by car or by plane, etc. And then where are you going to stay, right? And so it's going to be a Hilton, Marriott, IHG, Choice, any of those types of brands. Where would you decide you're going to stay? And so I want to just highlight this here because New Again actually said, easy Wells Fargo autograph journey for that person. And I agree. I think that the autograph journey is actually built for this person because it is a mid-tier travel card that has a flexible 5X hotel and 4X airline category. It also has that easy credit, like he said, flight credit, to deal with that, right? And so you have an effective annual fee of $45, which is very good. And that way you can actually trial out and see if that type of spending would work for you for if you want to enter the travel credit card space, have some access to transfer partners to get that a spin, see how that goes. They're not the best transfer partners, but there's choice. And so if you want to stay at Choice Hotels, that is certainly an option. And you're getting 5x back on your hotel stays for that with a pretty good transfer ratio when we look at Choice Hotels. So that's something I think that'd be worth looking into. The one thing about that though is that there is no gas category on the Autograph journey. And so because you travel so much by car, you want to have a good gas card, which is why I put the Wells Fargo Autograph card on there as well, because that is an option to have a good gas multiplier to get at least some cash back onto your system. But also you want to have, if you get the Autograph card, you also have transfer partners as well to transfer those points to. So you have that option. I do also want to mention the hotel card too, because like you mentioned, status is important. And if you want to stay at certain hotels, it would be helpful to have that kind of card. I think the Hilton Surpass card would be a good option too. It's a little bit higher at $150 annual fee, but because the hotel card, it has that $50 Hilton credit, you can use that for one of the quarters that you have it on or when you travel, but then you can use the other quarters to, I think, the gift card strategy is still pretty okay to use, and you can really liquidate that and get that value back from this card too. At the same time, getting Hilton Gold status, and I think Hilton Gold status is very underrated because they give you a daily breakfast credit for 2 people at pretty much a lot of their like mid-tier to higher end properties, and that is not to be underestimated, especially if you're staying there for a week at a time, because every day you're sitting or getting that daily breakfast credit, you're getting at least $50 of value if you have 2 people every single day. And so that is, I think, how I would approach that. We got a lot of comments here, so I want to cover those too. We have Mr. Albert Tam, who says, for the road guy, get the Wyndham Business Earner and Autograph Journey. So another Autograph Journey vote. But yes, the Wyndham Business Earner is a great card. I believe it has an elevated gas category, although it escapes me what that exact multiplier is. I think it's 4%, but I cannot
think
remember.
it's higher than that.
Maybe it's 6%. It's
I
really
thought it was
good.
like 8, dude. It's kind of crazy. Let me look at it.
Oh, is it higher than that? Oh, wow.
It's $8 points per dollar on hotels and gas. Hotels by Wyndham.
That's solid. I didn't even think of that one. So definitely that business owner card, solid. Newgan agrees. Wells Fargo deal makes 100% sense. Luke's here in the chat. Road trip guy, cash back, no hotel loyalty, no transferable points, annual fees. I agree. I think Autograph would be a great way to do that because you have all those categories covered. Of course, if you get the 5%, I know Luke's big on 5% only. And so if you get a 5%, like a city custom cash, if you spend that little in a billing period, or if there's some other 5% option to do that, that's certainly a reasonable thing to do too. He also says that the cashback guy can book hotels through shopping portals and double dip as well. And Luke's really good at this. He had a video the other day about using his shopping portal for American Airlines to get a bunch of AA miles and status with AA without even flying AA. So if I don't know which video it is, I'll probably try to look for it later on, but that's definitely a video to check out if you haven't already.
I was going to jump in real quick if I could, Stan.
Yeah,
your approach I think is really good too when it comes to like just getting a general travel kind of credit card. I think what could be done is like a little bit of a mix of both. Like you start with this like cashback approach where you're like, okay, let me figure out what hotels I like, and then maybe if you're like, I do want to pledge loyalty, I choose a specific brand and then get a hotel card with them. Because like the one problem with like a Journey or like even a CSP or any of those kind of general travel credit cards is, again, you only have access to certain hotels. So it's like, okay, if you have the Journey and you don't like Choice, well, then your points are really not going to help you a ton, maybe with that flight every year, something like that. But so like, that's why I like having the optionality to be like, okay, let's first figure out what I like and then kind of commit to maybe one if you want status. But that, like Luke is talking about, that kind of like free agent strategy, especially as like a road warrior, is very valuable. So
yeah. And I think that's definitely important to talk about too. You start with cashback and then you kind of start to build up up to that with the entry
Mhm.
level travel cards. And I think, we all talked about the autograph journey when it first came out. It's still kind of on its way. It's the 16th, so in about 4 days it'll be available to everybody. But it is definitely meant to be an entry level travel card like the CSP. But I think it's actually a little bit better if you take each card kind of on its own in terms of multipliers. But if you
Yeah.
put them into a system like the CSP, the Chase Trifecta, the CSP is going to be better in that situation because the transport is
Mhm.
better and there's more ways to earn points. But that's what's so exciting is that we're getting a lot of choices now from different um, issuers.
Yeah.
And so because of that, we can now choose and we can have the choice of getting a card that works best for us. So that's super exciting. Um, great. So let's go on to our next question here, which comes from Mr. Torrance. Torrance says, Stan, you were a huge inspiration for me applying and getting approved for the US Bank Altitude Reserve. First of all, congratulations on that card. It is an amazing card. It is my favorite card as of right now. It has been since I got it. I know Dugrass just did a live stream just before we started this one about the US Bank Altitude Reserve. And I actually heard about it from him as well as some other YouTubers from the past as well who covered this card. But I love this card. It's amazing. And it's one of those cards that balances uh, value and simplicity. You don't have to do some crazy trifecta or anything. It's just one card to do it all, at least to the most that it possibly can. But he is actually asking, curious to hear Spencer's thoughts on the card potentially being an end game setup. Thanks, guys. Looking forward to tuning in. So, Spencer, what do you think about the US Bank Altitude Reserve?
Yeah, I kind of alluded to this earlier, but it is definitely a card that I see being in my end game setup. And the reason for that is basically exactly what you just said of simplicity. I think as time goes on, I'm really going to be wanting to focus more on simple things, especially with my redemptions and just like earning categories and stuff like that. And that card covers you on literally like everything. I think you'll talk about this on the next slide. But I guess my answer to this is like, yes, I guess like you see here, in due time, I do plan on getting it. My approach to getting that is opening a US Bank checking account or opening an account with them. Really, I should probably be doing it like now, even though I'm not exactly planning on applying for it soon, just to build that history with them because we do know that US Bank is more relationship based and like they don't exactly just approve you for any credit card you apply for. Obviously, your mileage may vary, but it's good to have a relationship with them. And then so I would open that checking account, wait probably at least 6 to 12 months, just letting it kind of sit there, as well as like not applying for a ton of cards in that time frame, just to have my credit report look pretty clean. So basically, exactly what Stan did. And then hopefully I'll be able to get the US Bank Altitude Reserve. It's one that every single time I talk about it, I'm like, I want to go apply tomorrow. So that says something because most cards are not like that for me. Like even like the Amex Platinum, I'm like, I don't really care for that card. But the US Bank Altitude Reserve, I'm like, man, I could go apply for that tomorrow and be really happy. So yeah, I think the longer like I haven't been in the game for super long, but the longer I'm in it, the more I value that simple approach. Um, and like while I have 12 credit cards right now, a lot of them don't really play super well together. And I just like the yeah, just being able to get like that 3% on mobile wallets, which gets boosted to like 4.5% with your redemption, with the right redemption strategy. Like that just covers so much stuff. So I don't know. To me, it's a card that just makes sense for an in-game setup, and it's not one I have yet, but definitely plan to.
Yeah, I think it's a really great core card because, as
Yeah,
we all know, we're all trying to get welcome offers all the time if we can. But in the times that you're not, you want a good setup to fall back on. And this card is just going to cover everything at such a great rate with 3x mobile wallets, and then 1.5x on the real time rewards. I do want to bring this up because New again has another good comment. He's saying you don't need an account with the US Bank to get the US Bank Ultra Reserve. And he is absolutely correct. You do not need one. There's a lot of data points out there that show that people have gotten this card without a checking account. It used to be a requirement, but now it's
yeah,
not. Also, people with 4 or 5 hard inquiries and new accounts have also gotten approved for this card. So, like everything in credit cards, your mileage may vary, which is totally fine. But the way I approach things, just in general, is that if you could maximize the way you would get approved for something, wouldn't you do it? That's my approach. Other people are more kind of just go for it and don't worry about it. And that's totally fine. There's no right or wrong answer. It's just the way I approach things is a little bit different. Juan Garcia also says that there's a data point too. Don't need bank relationship with the US Bank. Got the US bar with a 20K credit line. So there's another data point showing that you don't need one. But again, it's just a matter of your personal preference and your risk tolerance. So if you feel like you want to maximize before you apply, then I think you should do that. If
yeah,
you don't, then just go ahead and just fire away, see what happens.
yeah.
Fire first, ask a question later.
Yeah, and then the other thing too with this card in particular, like I don't necessarily recommend that. I don't do that with every card I apply for. Obviously, like I usually am kind of more of like a run and gun approach. But since this one is theoretically one that I'm not rushing to add, it's one that I want to add later. I have the ability to do stuff like this. I have the ability to sit on an open US bank account. It's the same thing as me doing it right now without the account. It's like, why not open it, give myself even higher odds, and just give myself a higher odds of getting a higher credit limit, like all that stuff. So for me, if it was a card I wanted like literally tomorrow, I wouldn't do any of this. But since it's one I'm waiting on, it's like, might as well,
Yeah, you could plan on it too, especially because the
Yeah.
way you're thinking about waiting for your hard pulls to drop off, things like that.
Mhm.
Chad's in the house. He says he just got denied for a U.S. bank checking account. They don't serve Florida, and they
Mm.
rejected my Michigan address. And so you can see that there may be an option where you can't even get a checking account, so that may not even be a part of what you can
Yeah,
do.
that's true.
So that's something to think about when you're thinking of applying for this card too. I do want to mention Jeff's comment too, because it's kind of related. What do you guys think about the changes coming to the US Bank Altitude Go and Connect? Love the content. So, Jeff, yeah, I don't know if you are familiar with this, Spencer, or not. I'm kind of familiar with it. I haven't looked into it too much, but basically, for the US Bank Altitude Connect, they're going to be dropping the annual fee from $95 to zero. They are going to keep the 4X gas category, but they're going to limit it to like, I think it's like $1,000 per quarter or something like that. And they're also going to drop the ability to get wholesale club 2X multiplier on both the Altitude Go and the Altitude Connect. And so, um, I mean, I'm kind of neutral. I think the Altitude Go, as long as it has that 4X dining category on it, I think that card is still worth it. I think it's nice to have another no annual fee credit card. The cap kind of sucks, but it's not something that's going to make or break my reason to get this card or not. So what do you think about
Yeah.
that, Spencer?
Yeah, honestly, I didn't know much about these changes. I'll take it from a little bit of a different approach. So I think the US bank ecosystem in general is one where you don't, obviously, right now, you don't need to have multiple of their cards. If you're fully on Team Cashback, it's like, yeah, it makes sense. Like you get 4% on dining and all that with the Altitude Go. But for me, I think of the US Bank Altitude Reserve as a standalone in my setup because you don't have the ability to like convert points to the reserve and then use those for the higher redemption rates. So to me, it's like until they add those transfer partners. Well, first of all, if they did add transfer partners, I think the US Bank would have one, if not like the best, setups out there, honestly. But without that, it's kind of like I'll just get the cards that actually make sense for me. And the other, like the Altitude Go and Connect, I haven't even really looked into because I'm not on Team Cashback yet. So not very helpful, maybe, but
yeah. No, I mean, they're good cashback cards. I
Yeah.
mean, US Bank has some like the Cash Plus card. It's a great card.
Yeah.
Right. And so there's a lot of great US Bank cards out there, but they're basically cashback cards.
Yeah.
Until they can transfer points to the Altitude Reserve or they get transfer partners or both.
Yeah.
And so that's important. QC Man just left a nice comment here talking about how he got access to a checking account. He's able to open a US Bank checking account outside the footprint by first opening a CD, which can be done nationwide. And then that allowed him to open a checking account, which had a bonus at the time, which, by the way, is also a good time to open one too, is when they have a bonus. And that's definitely what I did as well. And so when you see what coming up, and I think last year it was around June when I opened my checking account. And so that is something to look out for because you want to obviously get money for opening a checking account, which you're already going to be doing.
Yep.
So there's that. And just to kind of finish up this US Bank slide here, again, mobile wallets, it really revolutionizes the way you think about credit card categories. That's what's so exciting about this card is that you no longer have to be like, oh, what's groceries, what's gas, what's dining, what's travel, what's transit. Like, just do you take tap to pay or not? That's it. That's all you have to worry about. And that is so powerful. And then you have to figure out, where do you not take mobile wallets generally? And generally speaking, that's going to be at restaurants that you have to give the card to at the end of the meal. Like someone said previously in the comments there, you can actually ask people or ask the waitress or waiter to give you a mobile terminal, and they can do that for you if you want. It's kind of awkward, he said, but it's not, it's something you can ask. And then also online shopping, because not all online shopping has Apple Pay capabilities as of yet. And so those are the two main things I see. Or Walmart. Walmart doesn't take Apple Pay or any kind of tap to pay. So there's that separate issue if you shop at Walmart. But there's very little at this point problems with using mobile wallets. Mobile wallets are everywhere. Tap to pay is everywhere. It used to be different back 10, 15 years ago, but now it's switched to where mobile wallets are actually the standard. And I shouldn't say that. I should say tap to pay is a standard, but mobile wallets comes with tap to pay.
Yep.
So All right, so I think we're it for a break. I'm just gonna do some more coverage of some things, comments that come up here. So Spencer asks, oh sorry, Spencer. Chad asks, Stan, do you know if Apple Pay via MacBook Safari counts as a mobile wallet? I actually don't know that. I've seen that before, but I haven't tried it. But it's definitely something that I'm interested in looking at because if it would be, that would be fantastic. So if anyone has any experience on that, definitely drop it down in the chat. Scott just did. He said it does, Chad. So something to look forward to, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Because Safari can use the Apple Pay in, I guess, in different websites, and that would count. That would be pretty awesome. Let's see here. I'm going to scroll back up to see if we can catch any more questions that we may have missed from the back. By the way, just while we're here, 133 people in the chat. Thanks so much for being here. Again, don't forget to hit the like button if you're getting value. We really appreciate that. And it's been about an hour so far. We still got a lot more to go. So we appreciate all the questions. Keep them coming. Let me see here. Lamb asks, any way we can get Delta status with Delta for cheap? Priority pass lounges are filled to the brim. Yeah, I mean, the lounge situation is kind of a problem because there's so many people in them now. I think for what you're even explaining is that people can get these statuses a lot easier now with getting just in a platinum card, buying Delta status, and so I think they're trying to figure out a way to make it a lot less full. I don't know if you had any recent experiences yet on lounges, Spencer.
Not to where they're over full or anything. Actually, I mean, I went to the Capital One Lounge in DFW, and that place, I didn't have to wait, which was nice, but like I could not find a seat in there. Like it's so busy. That little Chase Sapphire Lounge in Austin's usually not too bad, and they have big outdoor space, which is never full. So I mean, that's the whole point of it. It's a terrace lounge, so like that for me works really well. But yeah, I guess like this question is kind of the reason that it is overflowed. It's like, how do we get the status, or how do we get access for cheap? And that's what everybody's been doing for the last however many years, and now they're overflowed. So I think it's a good thing that they're limiting the access, honestly, to me, because that means that people that actually need the access, that are traveling for work, maybe like you, Stan, like those are the people that should be getting the access. In my opinion, I'd rather them have it than me whenever I'm traveling, here and there for leisure. But I'll also take I'll take it.
I mean, it depends on kind of what you're doing. Some people that travel once a year, like they'd like to have it, but again, I think it's just a matter of they have to make them bigger, which is what people are doing with the new Capital One lounges, the new Chase Sapphire lounges, and there was a new Platinum lounge opened up in Atlanta, Centurion Lounge. So I think that one also is fairly big too. So that's a good move in the right direction. Right. Just going way back here, David William, actually, this is kind of more towards you, Spencer, because you did some videos on this recently. Just got the Bilt card, $7,000 limit. Congratulations, David. When do they give you the 5X in 5 days? Question mark, when you get the card?
Yeah, so it's the way that it worked for me. I believe like literally as it hit my mailbox, they know about that. So they see that the card got delivered, and they texted me that day and said, hey, for the next 5 days, we'll get 5X on your purchases, like excluding rent. So it's like, you have to be around. So I guess don't let the card sit in your mailbox for 5 days, and then you won't get it. I'm pretty sure that's exactly how it worked for me. Because they have no idea, like when I open it, they just know when it gets delivered, and that's when they activate it. But you'll get a text. So just keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, I mean, when I get my Bilt card, same thing for me too. Like the day after I got the email that it was sent out, I got another email from Bilt saying that you now have 5X points back for 5 days. But it started on a Monday, and I got my card on Tuesday, so it was only 4 days, and so there's that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it was okay. It wasn't the best welcome offer, but that's kind of how it worked for me.
Yeah, I talked about that in my Bilt video recently. Like, I don't think it's an offer that you should be chasing. Like, it's nice to get an extra 5X, but put that spend towards a good bonus, because opportunity cost there is really high.
Absolutely. Catch actually is here in the chat. Good to see you, Catch. Thank you so much for both of us taking the time to answer my question. Good information from you both and the community to consider. Absolutely, man. That's why we're here. We're here to answer your questions, and so we appreciate the questions, so we can make sure that we can answer it the best that we can for you. Let's see here. Albert Thomas says, with Stan's Marriott F&A strategy, can you get unlimited boundless and RC cards? And the answer is, I believe the answer is yes. You have to look out though, because the Ritz-Carlton card does come with a $300 airline credit. So the more RC cards you get, the more credits you have to get, and you can do things to liquidate the credit, I guess, but it takes time too, right? So you have to wait 24 months and then product change. Sorry, you get the card, wait 12 months, product change, wait that 24 months to like get it again. Like I think you can still do that. Because I don't have ever seen anything with a Ritz-Carlton card being like you can't have more than one Ritz-Carlton card. You
Yep.
can't, in my opinion, or not my opinion, I think I saw in the terms you can't have more than one Boundless or Marriott card. So you can't have like the Bold and the Boundless, for example. I don't think you can have two Boundlesses, but I think you can still get more than one Ritz-Carlton. But I have to double check on the terms about that because it's been a while since I've looked at them.
Yeah, I believe someone asked me this, and I think I looked it up, and you can get multiple Ritz cards. But yeah, I didn't look into like the boundless. I would imagine you only are holding one at a time, though. I guess unless it makes sense to only hold one at a time.
Yep. Okay, so there's that. And then Mr. Jeff Burnett asked another question. What do you guys think about the Venmo card? Doesn't seem to get a lot of love because it doesn't have a welcome offer. It really seems like a sleeper card because of unlimited category spend. And yeah, so the Venmo card and the PayPal MasterCard are very similar to each other, and they get you a really nice multiplier on different categories. And I think Venmo, and I think you pulled it up, Spencer, over there.
Mhm.
Can you remind me what the categories are?
Yeah, so it's 3% on your eligible top spend category, 2% on the next highest, and then 1% on everything else. And I guess there's no reward limits, so I guess it's any category, which
Okay.
include travel, dining and nightlife, groceries, entertainment, bills, and utilities.
Okay.
Was what
Yeah.
I'm saying. So yeah,
I think Venmo is also a great Costco card too because of that 3% category. Definitely better than the
Visa,
City Costco card. It's a Visa. Obviously, Venmo transactions are elevated too. And so I think it's a great card to have. No annual fee. I think it has a foreign transaction fee. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure it does. But I would just, consider that and look into it if you want to get a card that has the categories you want, and that's totally perfect. And just to go back to our previous question, Key says, yes, you can get as many Ritz cards as you want. I currently have 2. So that's good. Thank you for the data point, Key. Appreciate that. Let's see. John's in the house. John, thank you so much for being a channel member. He says, I'm glad I got the Bilt card as a Wells Fargo mortgage holder. That's great. And then CWS says the Venmo card is unlimited, but it only has one 3% category. Okay, great. So I think we're going to keep going on our slides here. We have another kind of high level credit card information session here. So we'll kind of move on to the next slide here. It's question number 5, which comes from Eric J. Eric J asks, what's your recommendation for a luxury travel card for someone who only travels once a year and likes luxury hotel accommodations? Thanks and keep up the great work. So Spencer, what do you think? What is your recommendation for a luxury travel credit card for luxury hotels?
yeah. I think you actually might be first on this next one. But I can
We'll go to
talk
you
about
first.
mine if you want to.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry.
So yeah, so I kind of was playing off of your answer as well. So these will kind of go hand in hand. But I was just taking a peek at like the actual luxury hotel cards we have out there because you don't technically need a specific hotel. You don't need a luxury hotel credit card to have luxury hotel accommodations, which Stan, you'll probably talk about more. But when you look at the luxury hotel cards we do have, you have really the Hilton Aspire and then the Marriott cards being the Brilliant and the Ritz-Carlton. I don't think I'm missing any, Stan, unless you can think of one that I don't know.
No, those are luxury cards. Yep.
Yeah. So I kind of just broke it down here by like the statuses that I thought you would get value from, because you only travel once a year. So again, like I was talking about earlier with the other just luxury travel credit cards, a lot of times you're getting a ton of value back because of the airline credits and the lounge access, which you're not going to really value. I would imagine, maybe you do for that one trip, but I would imagine you're not going to get much value from those. So I brought down the stuff that you might actually care about. So starting with the Hilton Aspire, $550 annual fee. It's going to give you the highest status with Hilton, being diamond status. Again, might be a little bit watered down because anybody can get access to it by just paying the annual fee. You get a nice free night award, which is uncapped, to my understanding. And then you get, I think, a $400 resort credit. But for you, if you're only traveling once a year, you could maybe get half of that, so the $200. And then as well as there's like $200 worth of on-property credits, but split once again like Amex does. So you're only going to get maybe $100 from that. And the flight and clear credit I don't even include in here because you're not going to be really using it. So the effective annual fee from that alone is $250, but that's without the free night award as well as the actual status taken into account, which that's where you really get the bulk of your value from. I'm just kind of looking at like a straight up credit value for you. And I did the same thing with the Ritz and Bonvoy Brilliant cards, which I could spend a lot of time on each of these, but maybe you could just kind of look through them. Free night awards are exactly the same. You get higher status with the Brilliant. The Brilliant has a dining credit, which would be easier for you to use than maybe the $300 travel credit on the Ritz, because the travel credit is actually an airline credit, which again, I didn't really think about. So this effective annual fee is much higher for the Ritz card because of that. So fact of the matter is, like, you're looking at these 3 credit cards. The ones that make the most sense are probably the Aspire and the Brilliant card for you. And that just depends on which one you want higher status with and which free nights you value higher. That's a very simplistic approach to it, but I thought I'd at least kind of include this here for anybody that wanted to see that. Again, this isn't everything, but it's at least part of it. But
Yeah, I would say that those are great options for luxury hotel credit cards. Again, if you're traveling once a year,
right.
it's important to get the status through a credit card because there's no way else you would get
Mhm.
elevated status. And it really does help you have a much better stay when you stay at these luxury properties. For me, I think that there are 2 options for cards that you could consider. There's 2 ways to do it, and it comes down to the Amex Platinum or the Hilton Surpass. If you prefer luxury stays, the FHR program is perfect for that. I'm going to preface this first by saying that the FHR property, like on AmexTravel.com, those may not be the most cost efficient way to book properties. You're probably going to find a lot of properties that are cheaper if you book directly through the website of the actual hotel chain. However, FHR does come with some other perks like early check-in, late check-out, some restaurant credits here and there. Sometimes they give you some complimentary room upgrades, and so you have to factor that into the cost of what you're paying for. And sometimes you can get a really good deal on FHR properties if you look in the right places. For example, Las Vegas used to be a really great place to do this with. They have pared down some of the properties. I think some have left, such as I want to say Bellagio is one of them, and there's another one I can't remember off the top of my head. But FHR used to have a lot of Vegas properties, and they had a lot of good deals in terms of having even cheaper rates with their hotels. At the same time, you also got all those benefits for FHR too. So it's kind of a really good thing to look for if you're looking at luxury properties. Also, you get that $200 FHR credit on the FHR, like the other platinum card in general. So if you book like $1,000 rate and you get $200 back, that's already a 20% return on what you spent money on. So again, I don't know like what your classification of luxury is, but if that's what you're going for and cost is not as much of a concern, the platinum is one way to go about doing it. The other option is to go a little bit cheaper with this $150 Hilton Surpass card. And I kind of will go back to what I said earlier about the Hilton Gold status. That daily breakfast credit is money. And if you're going there for any kind of like length of time, 3 days, 5 days, 7 days, the more days you go, the more value you get back. And I know that Hilton Diamond is the top tier status, but all you need to get the daily breakfast credit is gold. And I have gold from the platinum card and also the Hilton business. And I don't find a need to go to diamond. One, because the gold is enough for me, but second, because I don't travel internationally. So the diamond doesn't get me those increase in the upgrades in the rooms. A lot of Hilton hotels don't give you room upgrades with gold as much as they would diamond. So maybe that would be one option to think about. But if you're traveling, you know, if you want to do a cheaper version of that, the Surpass would be a good option to get the Gold Elite status off the bat, be able to get those luxury hotels at Hilton. And if you spend a lot of money on the car, that $15,000 in the calendar year, you get a free night award too. That's pretty much uncapped. There's an exception list, but it's pretty much uncapped. And so that would be another way to get more value on top of the stay you're going to do for just a $150 annual fee card. Of course, we had talked about the $50 quarterly Hilton credit. So you can put that onto get gift cards for the other 3 quarters, and then apply that to like whatever you spend for on the luxury hotel. There's a lot of like ways to do a lot of value on value on value with the Surpass card by itself. And so those are the kind of the 2 options I would consider when looking at that best travel card.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So let's get on to the next question here. And it's from Bruce Lee Credit. He says, question, is it possible to get player to removed as an authorized user on some recent new credit cards in a way that removes the card from the credit report altogether? And if so, should that effectively lower 524 status per card, or does Chase still have a way of knowing once a credit report is cleaned? Thank you. Okay, so I think we should just go right into authorized users and what that's all about. So when you create an authorized user on your credit card, your card will appear onto their credit report. That's voluntarily by you. And if you say player two, I'm guessing it's someone that you know pretty well, so you have a good conversation about what you're doing. And so essentially, when you do that, there's two options that could happen. The first is that you could go through things like Bank of America, Chase, and US Bank, because of my personal experience. The number you get on your authorized user, the credit card number is exactly the same. So it's going to port that history, that credit history, to your credit report. So if I open a card, I'd say 20 years ago, and I had an authorized user for Bank of America, Chase, or US Bank, they will also get a 20-year history on their credit report as an authorized user. However, if you use American Express, for example, and you get them an authorized user, they will give that user a new credit card number. And so when that gets ported to their credit report, it actually will start at like the date you open the authorized user, and they won't actually get the history of the card that you had. So if you had that for 20 years, actually they'll only get like 1 month, because that's what happens with Amex specifically. It depends on the issuer. I don't know if you have any experience with that, Spencer, at all, or if you had a different experience.
No, I actually didn't even know that about Amex, so it's good to know for me too. I'm sitting here learning from Dan the man myself.
No, that's fine. I know it's like kind of it's a niche thing, but like it's important to know, especially if you want to eventually, want to give authorized user and give them the credit history, that little thing does exist. Now, once it's on the report, it's on there. And to remove it off, you just literally call the issuer and say, I want to cancel my authorized user. They'll cancel the authorized user. It'll come off the credit report, and then it's no longer there. There's no history about it. It's like it didn't even exist. So it'll just fall completely off the credit report. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, do authorized users count for Chase 524 when they're on your credit report? And Spencer and I discussed this, but I think it should not count towards Chase 524, but there's multiple data points, and like everything, your mileage may vary. In my experience, authorized users cards do not count. But what I mean by that is if you apply automatically for a Chase card over the internet online, for example, and you have an authorized user that's within 2 years, it will count using the automated way they check for it. However, you can call the recon line afterwards and then explain to him, hey, this card's an authorized user card, not my own credit card. And so the bank will look at that, and they can overturn their denial if it's because of Chase 524. If it's for some other reason, then that's off the table, obviously. But that would be one way to do it. But I know that, Spencer, you may have had a different experience with this.
Yeah. So that is by the book, the way to do it. I just know that everybody that I've talked to so far about this, if they're an authorized user, they have multiple authorized user cards under 2 years old, they will, like you said, get automatically denied. Like it does count in that regard to them, but you can call and try to get it pushed through. A lot of times, even then, the customer service reps, like we've seen even Eric talk about in one of his videos, Eric Gow, they will still say authorized user cards do count because they show up as a personal credit card on your credit report. So that might mean that they're just not educated on the topic or what have you. So the advice there is just to do the hang up and call again approach and try to get to a better customer service rep. And theoretically, you should be able to get past it. But don't expect to get automatically approved, because it will count against your 524 status for that initial application. So, yeah.
So it sounds like again, your mileage may vary situation. Again, when this happened to me, this was many years ago. So they may have changed the way that they have done it now, or they do it now. And so definitely, if there's more data points out there, let us know down in the comments. But I think that's something that we need to just kind of clarify and make sure that we got it right, because it seems like there's conflicting data on that. But they should not count.
That's the hope, at least. Yeah.
Okay, so the next question we have is from Alan. Alan asks, a lot of creators make content on just getting the same welcome offer every X years, but I haven't really seen how to manage that. Do you cancel the old card or do you have numerous cards of the same product change cards? And so I see what he's asking because obviously when you get a lot of welcome offers and you kind of churn them in that sort of way, you may end up with a lot of cards. So do you cancel them or do you product change them? And I think it's kind of up to you. And I think the best way to give an example of that is the Chase Ink cards, which has a 24-month rule, and the Chase Sapphire cards, which have a 48-month rule. And specifically what that means is that you can only get a welcome offer if it's been at least 24 months since your last offer. And so for myself, I personally just cancel the card because I've only had ink cards. I've never had a sapphire card before, but I had an ink card about a couple years ago. I got a new ink card, but I had no use for the second ink card because I don't, spend a lot on either card. So eventually I canceled the first card because this makes things simple. Could you have kept the second ink card? Yes. But if you keep doing this, you may end up getting a lot of cards. And I know, Spencer, this is a very big part of your strategy with Chase cards. And you have actually have product changed some Chase cards as well and have kept them. So I think you'd be a good person to talk to about what you've done with the Sapphire cards, how that relates to this question.
Yeah, so there's two different. I've done product changes with both sets of cards, the 24-month and 48-month rule. Yeah, I didn't put anything up there, but um, so as for my Sapphire card, I know that you're only eligible for an offer every 48 months on that card. So I had the Sapphire Preferred. I wanted the Sapphire Reserve. A lot of people were like, well, you got to apply fresh for the Reserve because that's how you get the new welcome offer. But I'm not eligible for another 3 years at that point. So what I did instead was product change up to the Reserve, and that's how I managed that account. You can only ever hold one Sapphire card at a time anyways. So that decision is made really easy for you. When it comes to the ink cards, as Stan was saying, it depends on how many cards you want to hold. The ink. So the difference between this, though, is that the Freedom cards have that same 24-month rule on them. So to me, I'd be a lot more apt to cancel an ink card before a personal card because those ink cards are not reporting to your personal credit report. So that credit age and all of that doesn't impact your personal report. So you can cancel those with like less impact to your personal credit report. For me, on the personal side, I'm not sitting here trying to get like 5 Freedom bonuses personally. I know like Ben Hedges, for example, he's always one that sticks in my mind. I know he has like 4 or 5 Freedom cards, like OG Freedom cards, because he product changes down and then reapplies for a bonus. I don't personally do that. But I did have a Chase Freedom student that I product changed to the OG Chase Freedom instead of like a Chase Freedom Flex or Chase Freedom Unlimited because I wanted to leave that welcome bonus slot open on those 2 cards. But yeah, like I said, I'm more of a fan of like if you have no annual fee on a personal card, I wouldn't cancel it because it's like you might as well let it age on your report unless you just want to simplify things. Like again, whenever I'm getting further along in my credit game, I would imagine I don't want to hold 12 cards in my, my portfolio. So maybe I would start canceling some of those. But for now, it's like on the personal side, I'd probably product change before canceling. On the business side, I'd probably cancel before product changing. I guess that's how I would think about it. But yeah.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. It depends on kind of how many cards you want to have and maintain. Because, for me, when I have a credit card and I'm maintaining it, I'm basically putting a charge on it every month just to keep it open and to not worry about it. Some people don't do that and they just want to keep it open and leave it 6 to 12 months and not have any charges. It could be canceled, it could not be canceled. There's a lot of things to think about. So it's just a balance between simplicity and complexity. If you want to have a bunch of Freedom cards with a 5x multiplier, that's totally cool too. That way you have more headway to get to that maximum $1,500 per quarter situation, have
Yep.
just more to spend on. That's part of the strategy too. So it depends on what you want. Ronald Wong asks, I thought Chase Ink does not have any limit, or he says that, and it's true, you don't have any limit in terms of as many ink cards as you want.
Right.
But the welcome offer does say you have to wait 24 months to get it. A lot of anti 524 talking here. Can't wait till I'm over 524. He said that kind of sarcastically. But he's got to be mindful, strategic about that, which is good. Sylvia says we need a what to do after you get under 524 masterclass or boot camp. I think that would be a great thing to have actually, because there's a lot of opportunity with that. And like it's a lot of the strategy is when you're like at 424, like what do you
Yep.
do? Like that's the really big thing. If you're like 024, no one cares. If you're like LOL 24, like John is, who's LL 24, like it doesn't matter either. But it's really at that level where you have that 424, you're like right there. Like, what do you do? That's a very good question to answer. Yeah. And then so there's that. And so let's kind of move on to the next question here, unless you have something else to add about this, Spencer.
No, yeah, that was all.
Okay, great. So the next question comes from Mr. Kenny. Kenny says, love the content from both you guys. For those that value free nights much more over hotel status, is there a recommended hotel program strategy, or would it be better to just focus on growing the Chase UR balance and use the 1.5 cent per point redemption through the Chase portal, for example, with the CSR? And so, yeah, so for free nights, I definitely have done strategies about free nights specifically, and the ones that I would say would be the Marriott video I did talking about how you can get 4 free nights for like $700 in annual fees, effective annual fees, and that one is the Marriott video that I'm sure you all know and are familiar with. I did another recent video about the Hilton strategy, which is not necessarily related to free night awards, but it does help you get a lot of Hilton points so you can book those points for free stays. And so if you want, you can definitely check those 2 videos out. But I would say if you're looking towards free night awards specifically with Marriott, that Marriott video is going to be money for you because that's one of the best ways to get multiple free night awards. Basically getting them every single year once you get past that first card and anniversary year. But I know you had some other, cards on the docket to talk about, Spencer, too.
Yeah, I mean, my answer for this one is very similar to the ones from earlier when people ask what cards they should get, it really all comes down to your preference, especially with hotel and airline credit cards. So I'm going to go back up to this real quick just to read it. So you value free nights much more than hotel status. So is there a recommended brand for that? Again, if it doesn't matter if, like, for example, Marriott gives you the most access to free nights using, that strategy Stan was mentioning, if you don't care to stay at Marriott properties. So that at that point, it's like, okay, well, maybe you just get a card with whatever hotel you do like, or you run that free agent strategy where you can get multiple of these cards and at least have some status with each. I put literally one from like every hotel brand here. And in the bottom right, I do have the Sapphire Preferred, for example, because you asked about Chase, or the Sapphire Reserve, either way. I think the one niche use case for something like that is if you're somebody that likes like boutique, like hotel properties. For example, like on my road trip, again, from Austin to Charleston, I stayed in, I guess it was in Charleston. I stayed at the Mills House, which is a hotel that Anthony Venture recommended to me. And that's like a boutique hotel that's not a part of a brand necessarily. So the only way I could book it with points was through the travel portal. So with the Reserve, I would have gotten 1.5 cents per point. And in that case, it's very valuable. But whether you lean on that or not kind of depends on if you want status or not. And if you are just looking for free nights and are a free agent, you could literally get like one of all of these cards and have a free night with each of them. So it's like that's an option too. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a matter of what free nights mean to you because not all free nights are going to be equal. Like you covered before, some of them are just the World of Hyatt, for example, or the IHG. They do have limits. Although the limit of the IHG, I think you can use more points to build it up if you need to have more than the limit.
Same with Marriott, right?
Yeah, Marriott has a limit to that. So I think IHG it's 40,000, but you can get points to as high as you want to go.
Oh, okay.
Whereas Marriott, it's like you only can do 15K up higher than what the limit is. But then Hilton has like, uncapped, which is by far the best free night award. And so definitely you have to look at what hotels you want to stay at, just like you said, Spencer, and figure it out from there. Another question here is from Evan. This is kind of a quick one. I've seen a few other YouTubers making videos about the US Bank Altitude Reserve, which is basically, the card that, I love so much, complaining about the mobile wallet category that was malfunctioning and it was only giving 1x when it should have been 3x. Stan, have you had that issue at all with yours? And if so, how did you resolve it? So the question is revolving around when Dugras had this issue back in January. He was doing mobile wallets for 3x and it was showing up on his account for 1x. It only fortunately lasted for only about 2 weeks to about a month, and then it reverted back to 3x. And he was getting points back the normal way, but in the January period where he was getting 1x, he was not getting the extra 2x points he was supposed to get. And so there's still kind of some thing about that, but he has a lot of videos on that. For me personally, I had never had that problem. I've always had it come as 3x, so I've been fortunate in that regard, but I know that there have been some people that have had that problem. I think it's just a matter of calling customer service and telling them about it and having them resolve it. Okay, we're here for a break. I know we have some questions here, so we're going to cover those too. Miguel asks, which travel credit card do you guys recommend for someone who will be living in Mexico? Good question. I think my first thought would be the Wells Fargo autograph card. It's just a very good no annual fee travel card that covers a lot of categories. Um, and also has getting the travel partners coming in. I think one of them is uh the one from Colombia. I'm blanking on the name. There's a
Uh,
travel partner that's South American, so that may be helpful for travel within Central America.
yeah. Yeah. I was just thinking of it really just has to be a card with no foreign transaction fees. I mean, that's like the biggest thing. And you can get that for free with the autograph compared to like if you got a Sapphire Preferred or City Premier, any of those, like you're paying $95 for that luxury. Also, Capital One cards, like pretty sure none of them have foreign transaction fees. So if you're in that ecosystem, you could just rock with like a Saber one or whatever for a bit, or and kind of build out like a Venture X setup as well. But yeah, that's a thought.
Yeah, definitely. I Saber One's a good one because I know groceries is a big category, not just groceries, but like U.S. groceries are like on the gold, for example. But I think Capital One groceries, the category covers global groceries, so that's a really big thing too.
Yeah.
So another question comes from Susu Subaru. Hi guys, looking for a dining card to pair with my U.S. Bank Altitude Reserve and start earning transferable points. Considering a Premier to pair with my City Double Cash, but open to ideas. Thanks for all that great info. And so I'm going to let you hit this one first, Spencer. What do you think about the secondary card to earn dining points?
Yeah, I think it comes down to what cards you already have. That's a big piece of it. Which, like you said here, you have the City Double Cash. So if you want to make those points able to be used for travel, at some point you'll need the Premier anyways. So could be a very great option to pair with it. I guess like really the only transferable currency card that will earn you more than that 3x that the Premier would give you would be like the gold that I can think of right now. And that would not communicate well with your other cards unless you had some Amex cards you didn't mention here. But yeah, you already have the US Bank Altitude Reserve as well. So the City Premier makes a ton of sense. It's a little bit of a harder one to get approved for. So you might have to wait, 6 to 12 months between applications to get this one. And luckily you already have a card with them, so that should help. But that's probably the route that I would go. I'm like a big fan of whatever cards I do have. I want to complete the setups in a way that let me use the points for travel. So like with my Chase cards when I started, I had the Freedom cards. I couldn't use their points for travel partners, so I needed a Sapphire Preferred. Completed that setup, moved to Amex. You automatically get that. City, I'm still working on getting the Premier to then transfer out, which maybe isn't the best approach because I'm scattering, all my spend and stuff like that. But that's why I would say this City Premier here because it at least completes one of those setups for you.
Yeah, I mean, I had the same issue with my own U.S. Bank Altitude Reserve card too, and so City Premier is a good option. It's got 3x points back on dining, and you get the transfer partners too. But I use the Bilt MasterCard. It's no annual fee, 3x on dining. Don't have to worry about it. And then I get the Bilt points at the highest multiplier possible, and so that's cool. I also have the Bank of America Premium Rewards Elite credit card, which is more niche. I have that Platinum Honors tier, so it boosts it up by 75%. So that 2x is now 3.5x on dining. Of course, that's cashback only, unless you consider that airline redemption in the Bank of America travel portal for 1.25 cents per point back. So there's a lot of things to make it better. That's what I personally use, though, for the dining card to pair with the US bar. And I have some videos about that setup, including the most recent Watch in My Wallet video. That's also going to show you what I do in terms of those dining cards.
Nice.
One more question is from the Pan here. Basically, he's asking, why is 524 so feared? I get they will decline you, but can't you just call them up and get reconsidered? That's true. You can call them up and get reconsidered. Doesn't necessarily mean that they'll push it through because you call them to reconsider. That's one thing. The second thing is it's not like Amex where you get pop-up jailed and it's like no big deal. You just kind of cancel the thing and it goes away. Like you get a hard pull when you apply for the application. And if you keep doing that, like it's just going to destroy your credit report. I know some people don't mind a lot of hard pulls, but as someone who's younger, maybe looking to buy a house in a few years, like I want to make sure I don't destroy my credit report and have all those hard pulls for 2 years in a row on that. And so that's why knowing what Chase 524 is and how to strategize around it is very important to protect your credit report from having too many hard inquiries for no reason. I don't know if you feel the same way, Spencer.
Yeah, I mean, my answer was going to be a little bit different. It's literally just the the 524 is a hard rule. It's not a soft rule. Like it's you're not going to just call up and reconsider and be like, okay, yeah, I'm good. Like it doesn't really ever work like that. Maybe it would on like a business card here and there. Like again, that authorized user thing we were talking about earlier, like maybe that would get you through. But if you are strictly over 524, I mean, it's really like a good luck, kind of thing. So yeah, again, like it plays into Stan's thing of like, if that's the case, then why apply and keep adding inquiries? That's why people like kind of really, really protect that.
Yeah, I totally agree. So, okay, let's get on to our questions. We have a few more questions here as well on the slides. So let's go to the next one here, which is from Bob. Bob asks, I'm looking for some cool vacation ideas in the US and Canada to earn and burn some points. What are some of your favorite US Canadian getaway spots, events, and activities? And also, what are some locations in the US and Canada that you would like to explore and why? And it's a big question, so we kind of have some samples to answer this, but I know you, Spencer, have been to some places recently. Do you want to talk about those?
Yeah. So, one of my favorite places that I've been domestically lately has been Savannah, Georgia, and like that Hilton Head, South Carolina area. I have a couple buddies that live in that area, so I've been like 3 or so times in the last few months. And I really like it down there, mainly because of the access to like all the nature. Like this is a picture I took at like a historical landmark. I can't even remember what it's called now. It's called like Wormslow or something like that. And it's like a big I guess property that's been there forever. But there's a ton of history in that area, which is to me, I really like that kind of stuff. That might not be for everybody. So a lot of what we do down there is either going to see like historical sites and doing that. They have a lot of, I mean, nightlife too if you're into that in that area. And also it's on the coast, so you have the beach, which I really like. So that Savannah area has been really cool for me. I mean, obviously, I'm biased to say like I like Austin a lot. But that's where I'm from, so it's not really a vacation spot for me. Um, and then as for Canada, I've been to Victoria, which is, I guess, yeah, that's really the only place I've been to in Canada, so I can't say a ton about it. But what I did there was, again, the same kind of theme. Like I like being outside a lot, so we did some big hikes out in that area, as well as did like a little, what are those like seaplanes or whatever that you can like ride around on and look at all the sites. You know what I'm talking about, Stan? Like they
Mhm.
land on the water and pick you up and all that. We did all that kind of stuff.
Seaplane, yeah.
Yeah. So it was a lot of just like outdoorsy stuff, but that place was beautiful. And I went during the summer, so granted, it wasn't freezing cold, so that's why I liked it. But really beautiful spot in Canada. I've only been once, and I have actually really wanted to go back, but again, probably during the summer. I'm a Texas boy, so you're not going to get me out in the cold too much.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, it's definitely pretty hot in Texas. When I went and
Yeah,
visited you for our creator conversations, it was definitely a hot day that day.
yeah, yeah, and
Yeah,
basically always is, but it's fun.
yeah. So for me, for me, it's pretty simple. I just love Las Vegas. For me, it's so close to me. It's about a 4 hour drive or like a 30-minute flight. And so to get there, it's super simple. And a lot of the things that I like to do is revolving around food. And so
Mm,
for me, when I go to Las Vegas, I always try to get myself a nice steak just because, it's something to do, it's something to enjoy. And I always come back to this one spot called Andiamo's. It's actually in the D, which is a hotel in the downtown Las Vegas district. And every time I try to get a steak, like I'm like, should I go to Golden Steer, which is another very popular, steakhouse, or Gordon Ramsay? I always come back to this place because for whatever reason, their steak is so good. And if I were to go for one time, I want to get a good steak. And so I always come back to Andiamo's. Picture here is a picture of a 20-ounce ribeye. I love that cut of steak. And every time I go, it's just delicious. And so, um, for me, about traveling in US and Canada, it's more about the food. And that's what I remember. Of course, Las Vegas is good for entertainment and other things too, gambling or sightseeing. But for me, it's always a food that sticks out. So if any of you, go to Las Vegas and you want to try a new steak place and you want to see if it's up to par to what you think, check out Andiamo's at the D.
mhm.
At the same vein, I've been to Vancouver, Canada, which I love, by the way. It's again very much like Victoria. I went in the summertime. It was very beautiful. It was a lot of great things to see. I think we went to the aquarium and other landmarks in the area. But of course, the food is what sticks out to me. And I'm going to butcher this name. It's kind of embarrassing because I am also Chinese, but I think it's called Yidian Quanjude. And it is a well-known, basically Beijing restaurant that serves Peking duck. And they do this thing where you pre-order this Peking duck and they bring it out to you during your dinner on a gold cart and they hand carve the whole duck in front of you. And what you're seeing there is actually the duck itself carved in very like nice pieces in a very nice way. And also on the bottom right, there's the skin itself. And the way you eat the skin is you take the skin and you dip it in this brown sugar mixture and you eat it by itself. And it's very crispy and it's delicious. And I've never had such good Peking duck, in my life before. And so that is something that I really remember from Vancouver. So I want to try that. If that's your thing with seafood, I don't know if this is gluten friendly or
Meat's
not.
always good.
Okay,
I can always
that's
have that.
that's awesome. I think LA Shadow also says bone and ribeye my favorite cut, so that's great. Yeah, bone and I don't know what's your favorite cut, Spencer. Do you know?
Oh, dude, I don't know. I'm not fancy enough to even know. I don't know if I've ever actually like went to a steak restaurant like specifically for that. So whatever I can get at the grocery store, which is usually a lot of times bone and ribeye as well. Or if I'm going cheap, it's just like a strip steak or something, just nice and easy. So
Nice.
but
Yeah, there's a lot of good options. Definitely for me, it's the ribeye.
yeah.
But on the same topic of travel, the next question is from our boy Anthony Venture, who, by the way, is having a live stream in the next 20 minutes or so with Sledge. So definitely check that out after this
Ooh.
one if you're free. He has two questions. Number one, how far do you guys think you can throw an Amex Platinum card? I threw one the other day. I went over the mountains. I actually tried this like in my house, and it kind of goes pretty far. Not gonna lie.
Dude, that's breaking a window or something if you're not
Yeah,
careful.
well, I didn't throw it towards a window, but yeah, it goes pretty far.
Yeah.
I don't know. Have you tried to throw a platinum card?
No, but I haven't tried to throw any of my credit cards to be honest. But I got to see the footage of Anthony's throw there because I'm not sure if I'm believing that, or I might need some tips because I want to get over a mountain.
The plastic cards, they kind of get caught in the wind as you like kind of throw it. But like if you throw a metal card, it kind of if you spin it, like it spins and it keeps spinning and it keeps going. So there's no like I don't know air friction or whatever as you kind of go towards there.
It's honestly a weapon.
Yeah, so you got to be careful. It's strong. I mean, I think we've seen some people like shoot the platinum card with a gun too, and it's pretty strong.
Yeah.
Okay. So then there's also the second question, which is what's the farthest distance either of you have driven so far in one stretch? And for me, this was like a long time ago, maybe 15 years ago, but for me, it was actually driving from my area, which is Ontario, California, in SoCal, down all the way up to Salt Lake City, which is about 650 miles. And that was actually in one trip, so in one day.
Mhm.
And it's really weird because I do drive to Las Vegas on occasion. And so that's like already a 4-hour drive. And so at that point, you think you're done. But on this particular trip, I just kept going through Las Vegas. And you have to go through like, a little smidgen of Arizona too, which is pretty cool. And then you get to Utah. And so the reason why I went there was for basically a concert. And so that's why I drove all the way out to Salt Lake City. There wasn't any in the area where I was in. So we just made a trip out of it. And I don't know if you've ever been to Salt Lake City before, but that city is a very beautiful city. It is gorgeous, not only from the scenery, but also the streets itself were very clean. Their subway was like the metro cars were very clean. Everything like looked just beautiful. And I say that because when you kind of look at my area and like LA, I'll just say it's not clean.
Yeah.
So seeing a clean city like Salt Lake City was just phenomenal for me. And so I think that would be, again, the longest I've ever driven in one sitting for a car ride. But what about you, Spencer?
Yeah, so in one sitting, my family, we would always do this same exact drive basically from Austin all the way to like Pagosa Springs, Colorado. I've probably done that like 4 or so times, and we drive it all in one stretch, which it usually is like at least 14 hours. I mean, without stops, it's almost 14 hours. So with stops, it's a lot longer. But the crazy thing is my stepdad, we start at like 9 p.m. and he drives through the night. Like he can't really sleep that well anyways, which is kind of sad, I guess, like all the insomnia and all that. But he's like, yeah, I'll just drive. And then he sleeps like whenever we get there the next morning. So we literally drive through the night. I guess I haven't personally driven that, but I've been in the car sleeping for a good bit of it. So that's in one stretch, that's the farthest we go as a family a lot. And then I guess the next one would be like my farthest trip in general, road trip wise, was the one I've already mentioned like 3 times because it's like my favorite trip I've done in a long time. And that was from Austin to Charleston. And I stopped in New Orleans and Hilton Head on the way to Charleston. So I guess like 3 cities. On the way back, I stopped in Savannah, Pensacola Beach, and I think back from Pensacola Beach, I went all the way. So that was also a pretty far drive. That was probably like a 14-hour drive or so. Maybe like 12. But
That's great. But that was over multiple days, though. That wasn't just like one.
Well, yeah, the last leg I think was like a good 10 to 12 hours. But the full thing was, like 24 or so with all the stops. Like it was a long time, but it was over the course of like a week. Like I would stay for a couple nights in each place to get the feel for it. But yeah.
I see. Awesome. We got a super chat here from Mr. John. John, thank you so much for the super chat. Also, thanks for being a member. That's so funny, Stan. I'm going to Salt Lake City in October for a concert, but I'm flying from Kansas City. Well, I hope you have a good time at the concert. You're going to love Salt Lake City. It's just a phenomenal city. And so I hope you have a great time at the concert, and you can always let us know all about that too. So awesome, John. Thank you so much. We got another super chat from Vinyl Covered 1987. Thank you so much, sir, for the super chat. Stan Spencer, I'm in Amex pop-up jail with 120K points. As someone who first got the gold, then BBP with welcome offers, do you think it's worth getting the CS plat without the welcome offer? That is a good question. What I would say for this is I don't think that's a good idea. I think the platinum welcome offer is the highest you can get. Of course, the business is different, but like for personal, that's the highest Amex welcome offer. And so to forego that, I think it's a big loss.
Yeah.
And it's also a big loss because there's that family language too, where if you get this Charles Schwab Platinum, now you can't get the Morgan Stanley, you can't get the vanilla. That used to be like its own isolated thing because they're all three separate products. But now that they're all the same thing, that's like a huge, huge blow. So I know you want to get that 1.1 cent per point redemption for that. But unfortunately, I think you just have to figure out another way to use those MR points. Just how you have them.
I mean, yeah, you're sacrificing what, like, not just 100,000-ish points or whatever for that offer, but 150 plus on the other version. Like, you're not going to get the Morgan Stanley too. But I mean, if you think about it, yeah, you're sacrificing a ton of points. I also personally would probably never apply for a card like without a welcome offer, or not without a welcome offer, but if I had the chance to get it, I would not forego a welcome offer. Maybe that's a better way to put it. Especially with Amex, because once in a lifetime language too, where you can only ever get one Amex welcome offer. Like, you don't want to miss out on that. And also pop-up jail, you just gotta, these days they're just really annoying with it, but just, I mean, you sit on your hands for a few months and just, put spin through your Amex cards, and hopefully you would get out, and you're going to give yourself thousands of dollars worth of value by doing that. So the time cost of that, I think, is well worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, thank you so much for the super chat. But I think we're all in agreement here, especially in the chat too. It says, Chad says wait at pop-up jail. I agree. Gatorade Zero Guy also agrees. So that's something to look out for. Okay, so I think we're at a break. We are running a little bit short on time, so we're going to keep going here. I do want to just highlight this one real quick here because I believe it was Eagle Eye 808 came in and says, is Stan defending his title today? And if you want to go back to the earlier part of this video, you just watch it and you can see what happens with that. We did do rock, paper, scissors earlier on. Spencer shaking his head. Just don't worry about that. Okay, so next one is going to be from our boy Matt Welcher. So these are now going to be questions that are less related to credit cards and more related to us as credit card creators. So if you stuck all the way to the end, definitely thank you so much. Don't forget to, again, hit that like button on the way out if you're getting value. We're going to be here for another couple of minutes because we have a lot of YouTube questions, but this is where you get to really know us as YouTube creators. And we love talking about this stuff as well. So we're going to get into it right now. And Matt asks, oh, wow, let's go. This will be awesome. 2 questions. One, very specific, but if you guys don't mind sharing, what are your current RPMs and how have those grown over time in conjunction with channel growth? And then 2, with both of you having significant YouTube growth, what is one underrated or under the radar skill or strategy that helped you grow your channels? So I'll pop it up to you, Spencer. Just quickly go over what RPM is, and then we'll kind of go over what's going on with that.
Yeah, so there's 2 main metrics that honestly a lot of people probably even heard about when it comes to YouTube, and that's CPM and RPM, or at least as it comes to money on YouTube. CPM is cost per mil, which is how much an advertiser will pay for roughly on average 1,000 views. Like, that's kind of just how it's, I guess, calculated, which is what mil stands for, I guess, in Latin or whatever. I don't know. That's what I've heard. But and then RPM is revenue per mil, which is what the creators get paid, which is what 55% or something like that of the cost per mil, because YouTube takes their cut and we get a little bit more than they do. Basically, I think it's 55 and 45, but I could be wrong. Yeah, that's the difference between them. For mine specifically, right now, like, this is over the last 90 days, I'm sitting at like a 14-ish. It's usually like $15 is what I tell people per 1,000 views, which is really a fortunate position to be in. There's people that do way better than that. But there's a ton of people that do way worse, and that's nothing to do with what I'm doing. I'm not making that number go up. The more views I get, any of that doesn't really impact that at all. At least in my experience, it hasn't impacted it. It's just based on the type of content you create. So finance creators get a higher RPM and CPM because the advertisers that are placing, bids on these ads have a lot more money to do so than say, and also have a very targeted audience compared to like a entertainment channel that they're just going to throw some random water bottle ad at you. It's like, yeah, it doesn't really, they can't pay you that much. So like entertainment channels may make like $3 to $5. We make a lot higher, which is very fortunate. Shorts, I looked this up because Stan, I saw you did. I honestly don't even look at shorts or lives or anything like that. But the shorts is like 16 cents. So, I mean, that's a massive difference, like massive difference. I think my highest viewed short has like, I don't know, 270,000 views or something. And I've made like $30 or something. Like it's something crazy. Just, it doesn't make any sense. The lives, the RPM is a little bit weird because that's including donations, I believe. Like I'm almost positive it does, because it should not be higher than my videos technically. But also I guess the longer watch time maybe increases it. So yeah, the lives is more like donation based. That's my answer to the first part. Do you want me to answer the second part too right now?
Yeah, while you're at this
Okay.
slide.
So the title of this whole slide is really like, I think like what I try to focus on to, I guess, be successful. Like I don't really think about it like that necessarily, but my whole approach to YouTube has always just been to like be authentically myself. Like I want you to feel like you're sitting in the room with me, like me talking to you about credit cards. Like I don't want it to be like something I have to do up, and then whenever you see me in person, you're like, oh, that's a different dude. It's like, no, like I want this to be exactly the same either way. And also my whole channel's purpose is to document my personal experience. So that's kind of what this whole stick to your roots idea is. Like I've even kept my video up from my first video ever on YouTube was that one from 2 years ago, or I guess it's really like, yeah, I guess it is exactly like 2 years ago now. Still leave that up so you can kind of see where I started. And then over time, like I've just made more videos documenting my process, which my Watch Me Applies have done really well. And that's the same for like my road mapping videos. All of that do really well because I think it's my personal experience. Nobody can take that away from me. There's no right or wrong answer. It's what am I going through? And I just keep sticking to that because that's all I know. And that's all I want to share with people. So those videos do well. And then also like, I think just going back to the authentic piece, like even my members only videos now, like I bring you along on my walks, with Odin, and we're just talking about questions that people have asked me that week. So it's like, it's just reducing like that barrier between my audience and me. Like I want it to be like me talking to a friend and you feel the same way about that. And that's kind of just like what I continually go back to. I might not provide the absolute top tier information. At least I hope I'm close. But, I might not always get my facts right, but you can be, rest assured that I'm going to give you my experience and my thoughts and be true about that or be honest about that. So I guess that's my advice.
Yeah, I think that's a really great way to approach it because it's all about you being you and being appreciated for you. And that way, it's actually easier to make the videos that way because then you can just be yourself and be able to communicate all the ideas that you have as well. And so my actually CPM and RPMs are very similar to Spencer's, maybe just a little bit different. As the first 90 days is, I have about $15 RPM for me. My lives are about $25 and my revenue for shorts is 15 cents, just like everyone is just not really that important. But in terms of my underrated advice is it's very similar to Spencer's. It's really just be yourself. And so just like Spencer, I have all of my earlier videos when I first started. And at the time I thought they were great, but they're actually like kind of terrible looking at them. But it's like a badge of honor, right? You went through the process of figuring out how to make your videos a lot better as you move forward. And when I first started this, there was no way I could talk off the cuff like I am now. I had to use a teleprompter. I had to script out my videos. I had to make sure I had everything that was perfect. But then as you kind of get more comfortable into it, you start to kind of ease into it. And now I can do these podcast style videos. For example, the most recent one I did was the one for the Wells Fargo autograph journey card. And I was able to get that video out in about 6 hours. So I came home from work at like 6 p.m. I filmed for like an hour and a half to get the video, the raw A4 footage. I edited the video for a couple hours and then I actually, posted it that night for the following morning. I also made the thumbnail, which took me about an hour or so. So all that together, I did like a 20-minute video, in that short period of time. And for me, I would have never been able to do that without the practice of the years and years before, and kind of going through the motions of learning things. And so really it's about being yourself. It's trying to find a way to be able to communicate yourself in a very authentic way, in a way that people can resonate with you. Teleprompters is something I'm trying to move away from. At this point, it's still something that I am working on because it's the easiest and fastest way for me to get information to you like very quickly. But it does take me some time to edit those videos to make them good. Whereas opposed to the podcast or even these live style videos, they're actually very easy to do because it's mostly just going for it with it. Going with Spencer, for example, doing a live with
Mhm.
you. I started doing lives recently. I had one with Luke last month, and so those are probably the most fun to do as well.
Yeah.
Like the teleprompter stuff, it's good information. It's kind of, very factual, but kind of getting to know all of you in the chat, talking to Spencer one on one here and answering your questions together, I think is a very powerful thing. And we can all crowdsource our information together and it really make a really great piece of content that way.
Yeah. Completely
Yeah.
agree.
So there's another question related to YouTube as well, which is going to be from our boy Monty. Monty says, looking forward to it. I believe you guys got acquainted quite early in your YouTube journey. So I was curious about a couple of ways in which you guys helped each other grow your channels. And I love this question because
Yeah.
we started very similarly at the same time. We both were under 1,000 at the same time. We both reached 1,000 around the same time, and we're still continuing to grow to this day. And we still talk to each other fairly frequently about YouTube related things. And so, what would you say about this question, Spencer?
Yeah. I mean, my big thing for this one was just like, you got to do what you love in this space. And for me, that is what you just discussed. Like that whole answer to the last question for you is something that's big for me. Like I noticed whenever I got onto this platform or into the YouTube credit card space that there was no collaboration going on at all. And I was like, okay, well, a big part of this journey or this whole entire journey is super lonely. Why not bring people into this and like get to talk to other creators? It felt weird to me that we weren't doing that. So I was like, okay, I'm going to start that creator conversation series. And I think that has helped obviously my channel grow because I get to bring on really cool people, but also hopefully other channels as well. So that's not why I started it. It was mainly though to just again do what I love and talk to people that have very similar interests to me and people that I just genuinely enjoy talking to. So I have some pictures up here of like the iteration over time of the collabs that I've gotten to do with people on my channel, mainly. But like the first one way back when, which it says a year ago, but that's really like I don't know, probably 18 months ago is one of my earlier videos. We did like a big holiday special video with like, I think Stan, you have it on the next screen, so we can show that later. But
Yeah.
um, but yeah, with like a bunch of other creators, we've been in that same group chat since the very beginning. Really, it was like me, or it was really Matt that introduced or kind of got us all together. Me, Stan, and Matt, right? And then after that, we kind of started adding people that were also starting around the same time. And as you can see here, we had this collaboration like way back when. Still have the same dudes in a group chat, and we still make collaboration videos. Like on my last screen, we did one with Calby, which Calby does some great videos like that, like kind of game show style stuff. And then we have my creator conversation series. Stan's doing the lives with people. Tony does a live with a new creator like every week. So I think it's just like that openness to being able to like share this space. I don't think that was there before. Like I guess kind of generation of the credit card YouTubers has come along. I think it was mainly just everybody's doing their own thing, which is fine. But to me, I'm like, I believe a rising tide lifts all boats. And that's why I wanted to pour into relationships with others. And at the end of the day, this YouTube thing might not last forever. I mean, likely is not going to last forever. And I would like to be able to take away something from this. And that would hopefully be these relationships, So that's kind of my whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's really like I said in the slide, YouTube is better with friends. Like you said, it's really lonely, especially when you first start. You're trying to get your first 1,000 subscribers. You're trying to like get some views. You're trying to be better at editing and all the lighting and things like that. And you can always look at videos, and that's fine. But there's something so special about doing that with someone else, having the journey to figure out with somebody else. What do you think of this title? What do you think of this thumbnail? Like, what does my video look like? How do I sound? We did that, Spencer. Actually, in our first 3 months or so, we talked all the time about that sort of thing because we were both learning together. And now that we're at now, couple of years later, it's really strengthened our relationship as YouTube creators because we've kind of been through that gauntlet of trying to get to the places where we need to be. And we're all doing the same thing. All of us here in this holiday collaboration, like, we all joined up at that time. And we've also added other creators as along the way. Like, we're not just saying we're just going to be friends with these creators. We're friends with all of you guys. We want to make sure that you're all included and that we can all help you. We're always here to help you make better. If you have any questions, just reach out to ask us. We're happy to answer questions about YouTube specifically to make your channel the best it could possibly be. And so don't be a stranger. Definitely reach out to us. We have a lot of information about what to do. But I think my number one YouTube tip for those of you who are within, for example, the 0 to 1,000 subscriber, find someone in that same category because you have the same struggles, you have the same problems, and there'll be a lot better help to you. Like, we can help you, but like, our problems are different now. Like, for example, Spencer, you're at something 15K plus subs at this point. Those problems you have now are different than the problems you had when you were at 10K subs or even 5K subs. The problems are different. And so as you move forward and you get to be a bigger channel, that's going to make it easier if you have someone that is in a similar size to you and that we can really relate to them.
Yep. I completely agree. Yeah. And like Stan mentioned, I'll just reiterate, like, my DMs are always open, especially like on Instagram. That's where I see the most of my DMs. But like, I've had people that have been like monumental in my journey too, especially like Daniel Braun's been kind of my guy that I've always talked to and like pulled inspiration from as well. But he's helped me a ton. Like, he commented on my video when I had like, I think less than 1,000 subscribers. And I was like, crazy to me. And hopefully he's helped me a ton, and hopefully I give some value back to him as well. But I think those relationships are good to build no matter who they're with, but to actually get the most, like, I guess, value for your time with people, it's good to be in that same stage, like you said. Cause we were struggling with the same thing for sure. And these days we don't really talk about any of that. It's more of like, how do we get a little bit better here and there, So
right, exactly. Well, Cody agrees. Cody says the collaboration has elevated the credit card YouTube space for sure, makes it more entertaining. I think that's absolutely true. I think when you see these lives, you see these collaborations, it just makes just for better content than just having one person do it. And Monty also comes in and says, thanks for the great response to my question, guys. The collaborative YouTube credit card space that you guys fostered really enticed me to get involved too. And you want you're well on your way. Just keep up the great work, man. And we'll be here right with you, rooting you on. Okay. Woodsy here too, by the way. I'm here kinda. Woodsy's a little bit late, but Woodsy's he comments on all of your members only Q&A posts.
Yeah.
I think he's got a lot of questions. I love those, by the way. I know if you guys didn't know, Spencer has a members channel membership as well, and he does a lot of great live Q&As for his members only. And I'll discuss that a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, it's basically kind of what I talked about earlier too. It's very casual. Like, I try to provide a lot of value to my members, and the best way I can do that is by answering their questions, because there's only 30 people in there or something like that. So I can really nail down these people's their questions every single week or every single other week, as long as we have questions. But Woodsy's always in there. You'll get to know him and his questions a lot. I love having him there because it gives me something to talk about every week when I need it. So, but yeah, there's a ton of great people in here, and some people in this chat that are also members. So it's awesome to see them kind of in all of our channels. That's what this collaboration thing's about, right?
Absolutely. All right, so we have one more question here. It's a little bit different. It's from Max, and Max says, "Neat, you guys are cool to see. Not credit card related, but would you consider yourself Bogleheads, or are your investment philosophies different?" And so Bogleheads, just to give a broad terminology, it's basically you're using broadly diversified index funds to do your investments. And one of the most popular ones that you think about is called the 3-fund portfolio, where we have 60-20-20, 60 of US large cap, 20 of international, and then 20 of bonds. And you kind of basically balance that every 6 months or so to keep it that ratio. So what do you think, Spencer, what do you think is going to be your investment philosophy?
Yeah, for me right now, it's a little bit more aggressive than probably like yours, Stan, or like other people's as well. I honestly also I mainly have my Roth. Like, I worked a little bit, for an employer and had a 401k, but I just converted that to my Roth, I guess last year, whenever I took the YouTube stuff full time. So mainly large caps. You can see here, I just had like a quick graph of what my portfolio technically looks like, but I haven't rebalanced it in a while, so I need to do that. But what I've been doing is like mainly large cap, through the end of like the pandemic and all that, like the small cap got hit really hard, and I can be a little bit more aggressive. So I was investing in more small cap, or I guess technically still am. And then I have like some just exposure to the international and real estate, like REITs and stuff like that as well. I did the whole, like, whenever I was in college, I got really into the finance stuff in general, personal finance, hence my channel. But I did a little, really not investing. That's more like trading, which I did it with a very small proportion of my money. Thank God, because I lost that money. Same thing with like the crypto stuff. Like I would put like a very small percentage of my portfolio towards it, and that's basically all gone. I mean, I guess it's doing better now, but through all the different shutdown of all the apps and stuff, I've lost a good amount of money to gas fees. So it doesn't really make a difference. But for me, it is really that, like, the long-term strategy to me seems to be the best whenever you're just setting it in, forget it, and mostly just in diversified index funds. So that's my approach, even though I'm like younger and I guess could be doing other stuff. But this is what I do.
I don't think that's wrong. I think I also a Boglehead that terms that most of my investments are in index funds. It sounds like you too, Spencer. Your investments are mostly index funds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All of these are actually these days, I should say, like all of mine are in index funds. The no fee Fidelity ones, to be exact, which again is a little more aggressive, I guess, because people don't, I don't know. There's a whole conversation, but yeah.
Right. And so, yeah, mine too. So for you, it looks like it's almost 50, 30, 10. Yeah. So it's very close to the 3 fund. It's still more small cap than most people have, but I think that's still, again, you're very young. So you have a lot of time to make that kind of make those gains better. Myself, it's very similar. I actually am very heavily invested in US large cap. I do 70% US large cap, 20% international. And then I do have some small cap, but it's a lot smaller.
Yeah.
Knowing that, again, I'm about, I want to say 10 to 15 years older than you. So that is going to influence the way that the portfolio looks. I do have a little bit of bonds. I think that if you're under 40, having bonds is not that important. So just keeping a small amount is good. And then you start to, as you age, you're going to put more and more bonds in your portfolio to kind of make that more stable. But, US large cap is kind of the main one. And so I'm glad we both have that type of fund in our portfolio. Again, I have some REIT alternatives. That's where things like individual stocks or crypto would go, although I don't do either of those things. But if I were to, that's where they would go, that 2% category. And then that's kind of what makes up my total portfolio, just in general. Again, I would consider, again, myself as a Boglehead because I do really value the index funds and the low cost diversified part of it, because that's how you really do build a lot of wealth. But there's that. And Max is here, by the way. Nice. Max says, love to see the next fund. Love. Thanks for getting to my question. And sorry, I interrupted you, Spencer.
No, you're good. I was just going to say, I think it's funny to see my investment approach because it's very, like, I want to be as hands off as possible. So it's all index funds and just like automatic investments, and it makes it really easy, which on the credit card game, I'm very hands on right now. So that's why I can definitely see myself moving towards a simplistic approach with the credit cards over time and going like more cash back, like the US Bank Altitude Reserve, because it sits well with me. I mean, if this wasn't my job as well, maybe I'd already be a little more simplified, but that's what I like with my investing is I don't want to have to think about it, which single stock investing and all that is very mentally draining, in my opinion. And you're not going to do as good usually.
Yeah. All right. And then David Williams comes up just by VOO. I think he says it in every single one of my lives, but yes, I think having S&P is always a good thing. And I believe that is the end of our slideshow, so we can go back to our big faces here. Just a few things I want to cover before we kind of get done here. Dr. Vinny Vubat says, just started down the US Bank journey. Thanks for your video, Stan. Appreciate your contact. Well, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for that. I'm hoping you're loving the US Bank journey. Spencer, you were likely the reason I got the VentureX. And I know you had a really popular video with that too.
Yeah, I try to do all my reviews like as not unbiased, but as evenly presented as possible to do both the pros and the cons. So that's good to hear that you came out of a video like expecting, or hopefully you had a good expectation of what the card was going to give you before getting it. That's my goal with everything.
Well, good. And then QC Man here says, This is from before. Wow said, I'm surprised that you only started being good at extemporaneous speaking recently. You sound like a guy who's had experience in public speaking for years. You sound very natural. Well, I appreciate that. I did not sound like that to myself. Maybe it did to other people, but in my mind, I was not a very good public speaker. But I appreciate that, and I'm trying to improve that every single day with all these lives and these podcasts, and of course, there are many more of these to come. Hopefully, with you too, Spencer.
Oh yeah. The
And
fact that you
so
just pronounce extemporaneous off the cuff that's reason enough to call you a good public speaker. I don't think I've ever seen that word in my life.
it's definitely a big word, but yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. For me, I tend to speak very fast, so I'm working also on trying to slow down my speech. But it's just the way my mind works; it's very fast. So
I'm
I
the
just
same way.
my mouth is trying to keep up, and I need to settle down a little bit sometimes.
Yep.
Um,
Same here.
but I think that's covering most of the questions here. Did you have anything else you wanted to add, Spencer? While we're still online with anybody, any more questions from anybody?
No, I mean, I'll just say now, and maybe a couple more questions will roll in. But I just want to say first, Stan, thank you for having me on your show. I mean, you're blowing up recently, and I think it's very well deserved. Your content, I always know exactly what to expect, and it's like I'm going to get the information I need. And also, like I feel like I'm buddies with you, like sitting there watching you talk. So I just appreciate you letting me come on your platform and yeah, spending some time with you today. And if y'all aren't subscribed to Stan, better do that now. If you're watching it live and you're not subscribed, that's crazy. So you should do that.
Yeah, no, I thank you so much, Mentor. Appreciate that. I mean, I really like seeing your content as well. Again, it's very factual. It's definitely coming from you and your experiences, especially when I'm a member in your channel. I can see kind of the off the cuff live Q&A members only videos you do, and they're really really good. And so it's just it's nice because again, we have that bond where we started at the same
Yeah.
time and we had those struggles together. And so seeing you succeed in the way that you have done so is just phenomenal. And just talk about our favorite topic, credit cards too, is just
Yeah.
also a nice cherry on top as well. So thanks so much for that. And of course, I'm happy to have you on the show. And of course, I've been on your show first, the Creator
Oh, yeah.
Conversations from way back when, and that was totally fun.
Yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, I think we're going to end it there. Thank you all so much for coming to this live. I know that we're kind of a little bit over. Again, on your way out, if you don't mind, please hit that like button if you're getting value or if you had gotten value from this live stream. Again, I'm going to do this once a month. Sometimes it's going to be with somebody else. Sometimes it's going to be by myself. But hopefully we can keep this going. And I want to make sure that all your question answers. I'm sorry to those of you who you ask questions in the live chat I didn't get to. We try our best we can, but sometimes there's just so many questions we can't get to all of them. But again, thanks so much for hanging out on this Saturday afternoon, and we will see you guys in our next videos.